lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 303 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, February the 28th, 2026. My name is Jeremy Lee, as the song just said. A few quick announcements before we dive in. First of all, tomorrow night here on the channel, Fanatic Weekly Auction Ending Watch Party is back, and I will also be hopping in to the Greg Midlife live stream for the half hour leading up to that at 9 o'clock Eastern. I'll be joining Greg and his crew of merry men. I believe that is on the I think that's on the Midlife channel. It might be on For Collectors. I'm not sure. And then I'm going to hop off and do the Fanatic show, guys. If you are thinking about adding a Grail to your collection, you would like to use your cards to fund it, check out Fund Your Cards, the hobby's leading consolidator. Leighton Sheldon will be joining us a little bit later this evening, and he does purchase collections, offering competitive and transparent valuation and payment process services. Would love to speak with you. Email Leighton at justcollect.com. And guys, the Front Row Card Show is in Portland, Oregon this weekend, today and tomorrow, 440 tables. Visit Front Row Card Show for more show dates and locations. And the next episode of From the Front Row with Dan Bliss here on Sports Cards Live is going to be March 16th. That's a Monday at 7 p.m. CIA auctions, guys. The CIA auctions preview, the March auction preview, is up and running right now. You can check that out at collectorinvestorauctions.com. Register and view their monthly auctions. All right. Well, welcome, everybody, to the show. Let's bring out my good friend and yours too, Mr. Joe Poirot from Santa Cruz, California. Joe, how are you, buddy?
Well, we're having a little heat wave out here in California, but so I'm doing well. I might have to break out my sunglasses. No, just kidding. But yeah, all is well, and super stoked to be here tonight. I think we got a really good show, and of course, it's an exciting night in the hobby space with the big heritage auction going off. So looking forward to talking sports cards and connecting with some old friends.
Well, we are going to do that tonight. Like you mentioned, there is it's a big night in the hobby, actually, with the heritage auction. The sequel, the T206 Honus Wagner sequel, is gonna end tonight. Last week we saw the Shields family PSA 1 copy sell on Golden auctions for just over $5 million, which I think was, a good price, a good value, a healthy price for the card. It's a record for the grade, and I'm sure the family is happy. I did think it could do more, but hey, I'm not bidding, so I had nothing to do with it. But I had a feeling it might have gone for a bit more. It didn't. That is fine. We'll see what the heritage copy does tonight. There's a couple of Michael Jordan 1-of-1s and a whole bunch of other amazing cards going off on heritage tonight. Leighton Sheldon's going to join us, and we've got David Chase, who's going to round out the story on that PSA 1 Jackie Robinson that was sold on eBay by PSA a couple of weeks ago for $27,600, shattering the PSA 1 record. I'm not even sure what that was, but not only did it shatter PSA 1 records, since then we've seen a PSA 4 and a PSA 4.5 sell. Neither of those sold for as much as the PSA 1 did. So iAppeal's winning. iAppeal itself is at least it's challenging, let's say. It's challenging technical grade right now in terms of valuation and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. By the way, everybody, if you happen to be where I am, which is in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, I will be at the Collect X show tomorrow, set up, taking consignments for Slab Sharks. And I'll have a few cards and a few showcases of my own. So I'll be there for the duration of the show tomorrow. Come on by, say hello if you happen to be in the area. And thank you to everybody who has been purchasing Pops and Comps. on Amazon. I'll just flash that on the screen. There you can see it right there, guys. That is where it is. You can find it on Amazon. I've been really grateful for the sales, and I'm going to be at Burbank Sports Cards on March the 10th, coming up March the 10th for a bit of a book signing launch sort of event there. So thank you to Ryan, Rob, the team over at Burbank for hosting that. And then that night I will be at the Laker game watching the Ant-Man come into town and play against LeBron and Luka. I understand. Is it someone's birthday today, Joe? What's going on right now in the world of California basketball?
It is Luka's birthday. I don't necessarily associate him with California basketball, but he is now on the Lakers. So you will get to see Luka. That's exciting. But no, the Warriors are getting, at least in the first half, they're getting their rear ends handed to them by the Lakers up in Chase. Of course, Curry is out along with a few of our other players, obviously. So anyway, I'm recording, but the lead was so vast I don't even think it'll be much of a game.
Yeah, well, hopefully everyone's playing when I'm there. I want to, apparently the night that I'm going to be at crypto.com is not on a back-to-back. So I think that means that LeBron should play. And I've never seen him play live, so that'll be pretty cool. Same goes for Luka. Yeah, same goes for Luka. One other card show coming up I want to mention, in addition to the Front Row Card Show this weekend in Portland, but April 3rd to 5th is the Edmonton Expo, which is a great show here in Western Canada. So I will be there. If you are in the area, make sure you have that on your calendar to come up to the Edmonton show. Joe, it'd be great to see you at a show in Canada one of these years, but hey, no pressure. We're still working. Guys, I want to make a quick little announcement here. And I'm gonna actually like appeal for your help, which is trying really hard here to secure Joe Poirot for the National in Chicago this coming summer. I will be there, of course. I know many of you will be there, but I think we're getting closer to Joe securing his attendance. He's nodding. This is very encouraging, Joe. Things might be falling into place. You might be able to make it. What do you think?
I mean, that would be such a special event for me to make it to a national finally. But yeah, I'd say it's 50-50 right now. Okay.
Now, you also mentioned that it was like 75 degrees there in Northern California. We are not in that. I think it's like minus 17 Celsius where I am right now, which I don't know what that is on the Fahrenheit scale, but it's probably lower than zero.
I'd have to visit in summer if I come up there. I hope there's a good summer show because it needs to be summer. I'm not coming up to minus 17.
Well, the Calgary Expo is put on by the Sport Card Expo team. That's going to be in September. So weather's still pretty nice here then. So maybe we can figure that one out for you too. But let's say hello to the chat. Outlaws is here. Good evening. Kevin Hawthorne from Lakeland, Florida. Bill Betts, good evening. Laura, what is going on? Good evening. Random Esports. Nick Chen called shot. Clifton Cards. Brown Coin is here. Yankees fan is here. Jacob Dahl. Stukes is here. Willie T. Ron Fig. We got Orlando. We got Dinged Corners. Good evening. Tony from the Southern Collector State is here. He is looking forward to David Chase. David will be joining us at the top of the hour. Had dinner with us at the West Coast Card Show. Carl from Oz he's going to have to drop out briefly. He's being discharged in the daughter, Donna, nurse rat. Okay, well, we'll see you around. Jeff McMahon, what's going on? The Cardboard Corner. Hello, hello. Rob Star is back, Joe. Rob Star is back. MG, what is happening? Good to see you. Junk Wax Heroes is here. Yes, they just announced another location for the expo in Halifax. I just learned of that today. Congrats to everyone out in the Maritimes. Mike Petty is here. What's going on? He says David Chase, the Eye Appeal Sticker King tonight, is going to join us. Cardboard Corner. Hello, hello. Ben Burrows is here. Ben, where are you now? You're no longer with Collect. Let me know where are you at? I don't know. Let me know where you're at now. We've got Chris C. We got Jay Hawker. We got Chris C. again. Michael Rader is happy to be here. Awesome to have you as well. Dan's Vintage is here as well. Chris C. Carl from Oz. Bob Boozle says Luka wants second helping of cake. Hey, I'm sure that guy can eat. Mookie Chilson, I bought Pops and Comps on Amazon this week and some Dr. Scholl's insights as well. Go back to Dan's comment. What does he say? I don't see how it's a good thing for collectors that high eye appeal cards are selling for $3 to $4 It's actually bad for discerning collectors. Well, I mean, it's only bad if you think that you can't find any cards that look good for value prices, Dan, but that's on you, not on the cards, right? If you can't find them, I'm still finding them. So maybe you're looking in the wrong places, but it might not be a good thing for collectors, but it's a good thing for eye appeal. Eye appeal itself is winning. That's undeniable. Ron Fig, 84-60 for the Lakers with 5 minutes to go. Stukes is going to hope for the Wolves when I'm watching that game. I might be too, Stukes. We'll have to see. Bob Boozle, can't wait to see Bronny Boo Boo complain to the refs. Philly show, Dan says, the Philly show's next weekend, guys. If you're in that area, be sure to check it out. Chrissy, if you were in SoCal, but you are not, next time maybe. Oh, Laura, gonna meet Laura for the first time. That'll be epic, Laura, to meet you after seeing you in here, show after show, week, year after year at this point. Absolutely,
year after year.
Year after year, no doubt. Chris C says it's colder than a golden poor people rant there, Jeremy. Orlando, it's 80 degrees in southern Florida. Very nice, very nice. Piccolina, what's going on? Double V Mike is here. David Cooey is here. Greetings from Muskegon, Michigan. Once again, I learned new information to Card Collecting Weekly thanks to your hard work and knowledge. All I can say is thank you, man. Well, thank you so much. 00 Cards Guy. We will look forward to meeting you tomorrow at the show here in Calgary. Yes, everyone is here. Brown Coin. Ben Burrows, you can find my silly stories at The Athletic and the New York. I think that's New York Times now. Well, I'm glad you landed somewhere else, Ben. We should connect yet again. Good evening to Foul Ball. Clifton says, who cares about basketball? How about them Buffalo Sabres? I did see them have a nice win today. Bob Boozle says that's an upgrade for Ben. Yeah, Ben Burrows was with Collect. He's a journalist and has been on the show several times in the last year or so. But we haven't had you on for a few months. We'll get you back on here soon. Absolutely. Chris E says spring training baseball is going on. Yes, it is. Mike Petty says to Ben, that's a trade. I might have to pull your charter from the YouTube Jackass Hall of Fame writer ring now that you left that guy, Darren. He's calling him Darren Grovell. Anthony Aiello, baseball is back, baby. Yeah, and speaking of baseball, we have some nice baseball cards ending tonight online, and we haven't been making a habit, Joe, really, of covering auctions on Saturday nights. I do dedicated auction shows, but there's just some big cards tonight. Why don't we take a look at some of those? And yeah,
let's do it.
Let's do that. So first of all, guys, here is the Joe Garagiola Honus Wagner 1909 T206 Sweet Caporal. Current bid is $2 million. With reserve, it's 2.44. 46 minutes left in the auction. We'll see what happens with extended bidding, etc. But right now we're at 2.4 million, which is about 3 million short of what the Shields family copy sold for last Saturday on Golden. So we'll keep our eyes on this, guys, throughout the evening. But let's see what else there is, because there's a ton of. Joe, this Gehrig just caught my eye. I mean, this is an SGC 9, and this might be the most beautiful copy I've seen. It's too high of a grade, really, for most of us. Certainly for me and many people watching, if not all of us. It's got the gold NBA sticker, just confirming or putting another opinion on the grade. But what a nice looking copy! The centering, the corners, the edges. This card is sitting right now at $220,000. Oh, here's that. Here's the Wilt Chamberlain uniform or jersey.
Yeah.
Now, this one's interesting though, Joe. It's currently sitting at a bid. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if there's a bid in on this or not. It says $2,250,000, but it says that's a reserve amount. Next bid minimum $2,250,000. So I don't know. It seems like maybe there's no bids on this and they need a bid to get it to the reserve so that it can sell, which is interesting that we can't and I'm logged in here. Yeah, I'm logged in. So I would expect to see a bid count somewhere. If we go back to this one, no, there's no, am I just blind here, Joe?
I don't know. It maybe someone that frequents Heritage can let us know if some of these are just set at a elevated first bid. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
yeah. It's interesting that you can't see any bidder information, although again could be missing something. But in any event, this is a crazy Wilt Chamberlain rookie jersey and shorts, so you're getting basically the whole uniform.
Look down below the green thing on the right side. It says view recent bid activity on this.
Yes. Oh, but where did that bring us? Oh, that is giving us the most recent bids that have come in on any lot in the auction, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you'd have to scroll to search for something that's over $1 million to find it. So that's not going to do it for us.
Yeah.
But in any event, well, let's just look at the cards. Yeah. A beautiful, this card has really crept up on me in the last couple of years. 1933 Gaudy, number 181, Babe Ruth, the green portrait background, PSA 8, beautiful copy, sitting at $317,000. We've been having a lot of talk about Jackie Robinson lately, Joe. This card in particular, the 48 Leaf, and here's a PSA 7. This is a very old grade in a very new holder, which is kind of what collectors and auction houses are doing nowadays to just brighten up the card, I guess, breathe some new life into it. And this is a nice copy, but I don't know, that PSA 1, I would argue, is a nicer copy. Eye appeal wise, it does have technical issues, of course, but this copy is sitting right now at $91,500. Just a beautiful card.
Wow.
Here's another one, Joe. I talk a lot about flight collecting and, picking a checklist and maybe owning a few cards from it. And 48 Leaf, I pulled out my 48 Leaf cards for the show tonight because David Chase is big into it. So I own these three: the DiMaggio, the Spawn, and the Jackie. And I definitely want to grab the Ted Williams to have a red card, and I definitely want to grab the Stan Musial to have a blue one. Then I'll have red, orange, yellow, green, blue covered off, a rainbow of sorts, if you will. But then this Babe Ruth kind of, catches my eye.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do I want 6 cards from this set eventually one day? Or
that'd be a double flight, right? That's a perfect double flight.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this one is sitting at $41,000. Beautiful PSA 8. Here's the 49 Jackie.
Oh, see to me, that's the pick of the litter. I mean, not necessarily financially, but just look at that. Look at that red. And
oh yeah,
the amazing saturation there.
It's a gorgeous card. SGC 9.5 with the gold MBA label on it. This thing is absolutely stunning. What a great copy. Sitting right now at a bid of $268,000. Satchel Paige from the same set in a PSA 9 sitting at $183,000. This one, however, another case where we have a very old grade in a very new slab. So it's been reholdered. But look at the centering.
Yeah, you think that's a 9 today? I'm not sure it's a 9 today with the centering as it is.
It might be because, PSAs, well, today, I mean, they've tightened up their centering. About a year ago, they did that. So this one probably would be fine.
I love that card, but I would wonder if I'm paying 9 price, if it would still be a 9 centering there. And
I would never, I'm never paying $183,000 for a card that is off-centered as this one, but it's still a beautiful copy. I mean, we're just being, we're shooting above our capabilities here right now. And then there's this card, which I know people love this card. It's very nostalgic. I look at it as an incomplete card. I'd rather have his name on the front. Not that you need it to know who he is, but I'd rather have a complete copy.
No, it's an oddball. It's a error card. It's one of the most important error cards ever.
It's a PSA 10 copy. It is the only PSA 10 copy. So this is a big sale, a big event tonight on this card. Currently at $177,000 for maybe the #1 junk wax era card in the hobby.
Give me the Jackie. Give me the Jackie.
Oh, please, absolutely. There's a couple of these essential credential nows from 98 Skybox EX 2001. Low print run copies. Here's the Derek Jeter in a PSA 10. This copy, there's only 7 of these, and it's sitting at $225,000 for the PSA 10. And then there's the Griffey as well. This one is numbered out of 10. It's sitting at $244,000, also a PSA 9. Who'd have thunk it, hey?
You're a Griffey guy. Is that who you're going with if you had to pick between these two?
Oh, absolutely, I am. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. 100%. A nice Bill Russell. Well, I say nice. This is a PSA 8. It's a very old grade, not reholdered. And you almost think, well, why reholdered? It's so off-centered. Is it going to help? I don't know. Maybe it would. But everything except the centering is absolutely stunning on this card, though. I don't see any. There's some slight surface issues going on, but this is just a beautiful copy of the Bill Russell. Obviously outside of centering, the PSA 8 is currently at just shy of 70 grand. Here's the second year Pete Maravich in a PSA 10. I've talked a lot lately about my own collecting desires and moving, not like I'm moving away from collecting rookie cards. I still love rookie cards, but I don't think that second years and third years get enough love out there, or at least let me rephrase, I'm willing to give them more love. And this card to me, because I can't have the Maravich rookie, it's too big for my collection. This, and by big, I mean physically in stature, not in dollar price. But this card, as I was looking at it the other day, I think I was we were hanging out at that time, Joe. This card has all of a sudden become very high on my want list because I think it's an awesome looking card. I love the pose. He looks statuesque. I like the colors. I think this is just a wonderful vintage card. What do you think?
There's so much going on with this card. I love it. I mean, just from the font with the Atlanta to how the red P and Pete and the red M and Maravich, that deep golden background with a little bit of lime green on the old Hawks jersey there, like the old style Hawks jersey. I just love that card. It's amazing.
Absolutely. It's a beauty. Yeah, I'm in the market now for a really nice copy that's slabbed by, something like even a 5, a 6, a 7, but it's one that looks like an 8. And they are certainly out there. And I will save a ton of money by buying one of those versus this one, which is, $24,000 right now for this card in a PSA 10. I don't know what the population is, but that doesn't seem unreasonable. I'm not shocked by that price on the card right now. And then there's 2 Michael Jordan 1-of-1s. We know there's been chatter about these. Chris Hoge has talked about them both on the Hogecast and here on Sports Cards Live. I'm sure as on other platforms as well. Well, this thing has jumped in the last day or so. I think it's now sitting at $1,175,000. It is a 97 Ultra Masterpiece 1-of-1. And if you look at Chris Hoge's framework for Michael Jordan 1-of-1s, this is a top. It's at the top of the mountain when it comes to those very first 72 Jordan 1-of-1s from 1999 and earlier. And it's in a PSA 8 holder. And as people have talked about and Chris has talked about, this card looks just like the platinum medallion version, but for this stamp on the bottom here, this purple foiling stamp here that says the only 1-of-1 masterpiece. That is the only difference between this copy and the regular copy. And even as you look, you can see there's chipping all around the edges here. It's a 1-of-1 MJ, maybe one of the most important 1-of-1 MJs. And for that reason, this chipping that we see along the outer border is really not of concern. This is one of those things where if you're going to spend the money, you just want to own the card. It's not the prettiest card out there, but it's not an eyesore either, I don't think, Joe. What do you think?
Well, I really like the card. The 1-of-1 masterpiece part has taken me a little while to wrap my brain around. I think I'd be fine with the platinum, especially in the land of my own budget, which even that's out of my budget. But it's sort of grown on me, understanding the significance of that. And I don't want to talk too much about it because, I don't want to mess with anybody's auction. So cool card, and good luck to everybody.
Good luck. Good luck to all the potential bidders out there. And then there's another 1-of-1 Michael Jordan from 1998 Ultra, the Masterpieces 1-of-1, sitting at a bid of $536,000 right now. I wonder if some people who might try to acquire this card tonight, if they don't, Will they go for this one as a consolation prize sort of thing? These are both MJ 1-of-1s.
That's a hell of a consolation prize. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see that 2 of these closing simultaneously tonight. I think that's really interesting to see how that goes down.
All right. And then what else do we got? A couple of Gretzky's to look at. O-Pee-Chee PSA 8.5. And, we'll take a quick look at this. Very recently graded, so it should be a little bit stricter than previously graded copies. A very rough cut on the left edge there. Tons of fray coming out. It's almost like a mohawk type of fray right there. Word Edmonton is nice and dark. The word Oilers, though, is sitting on a lower plane. And there's this weird stain I noticed on the card here. I thought it might have been on my monitor, but it is not. That is on the card or the slab. I can't imagine it's on the slab. One thing I will say, though, this inner white border, the thin inner white border, is nice and clean. Oftentimes we see color fringe creeping its way in from one of the plates. It's not happening here. Lots of very tight print job between these thin black lines and the blue border. Oftentimes we see hairline of white in between the black and the blue. So that's good. There is a fisheye right there, but that's not too big of a deal. Oil drop is well placed, but not perfectly. And you can see some yellow fringe coming off the magenta down there. Slight glow coming off the bottom of his legs, which happens quite a bit, which is an imperfection. This card is not perfect by any means. That is a registration problem. Bottom corners and edges look good. I love that bottom edge. I love the right edge as well. Although look at these, a nice little scratch, scrape, some edge wear right there, which actually not that big of a deal. The card is centered. I think the grade is probably correct on this one. And then so that's the 8.5. Here's the 9 now. And the 8.5 to me looks nicer. This is an older grade. I mean, yeah, look at this, guys. Do you see the yellow coming off the magenta in Oilers? Look at that. That's called color fringe, guys. That is a registration problem. You also see a thin white line just under the black border there.
Yeah.
Remember I said on the 8.5, I said how clean that inner white border is. This one is clean too, but not perfect. There is some yellow coming in. If you look closely in the crowd area here, that wasn't happening on the other copy. You got this black stain right there. And look at this thin white hairline coming between the black line and the blue border. That's what I was talking about. That was not happening on the 8.5. It's happening here on the 9. You see it all under here. You see it under the board. And you've got the yellow glow coming off the legs. To me, this copy, while it sits in a higher graded holder, this card is inferior to the PSA 8.5 that we see over here. This to me is a stronger card, but with the way grading is, that, and of course, I always have to qualify. This is all based on looking at this in 2 dimensions. So this is based on what we're seeing, not based on anything else. So there we have it, Joe. There's a bunch of cards going off tonight. Any sort of thoughts? We'll go back to some comments and then get into some more discussion. But what's your takeaways on the Heritage auction tonight?
Well, first of all, I always love hearing your breakdowns of the O-Pee-Chee Gretzky's, and always kind of wonder about the rough cut, because it's like you like the rough cut, but it has to be kind of the right rough cut, and which is so kind of particular to each and every card, right? So like that's why it's fun, and then you find all the print and sort of like issues that might be involved, from the oil dot to the magenta, orange yellow thing. But anyway, I love the auction. I think you had mentioned earlier how maybe a few of us thought that other Wagner was going to go for more. I don't know. I thought it might hit like 7, 8. I thought it had a chance to do, especially with what's been going on in the hobby. So I'm kind of curious. That's probably the thing I'm most interested in, is that Wagner. Obviously it's a beater. It's right up Beater Joe alley. But I know the importance of that card, even though like now we have 2 coming up just in short succession, but it might be another 2 years before we see another. Like, you just never know. And if somebody can get into that, 3, 4, I mean, I think that's going to make the other Wagner a really good deal, depending on how far that edges up. So that's kind of what I'm watching tonight.
Good. Yeah, it's interesting. And I just saw a comment in the chat here from Josh, who will join us later. It says the football PMGs are strong. Well, so I just brought those up, guys. There's like a whole set of PMG green football cards going off. These are all numbered out of, well, they're numbered to 150, but we know they are out of 15. And it looks like a complete set. I didn't do an audit to make sure, but there's look at that. Like that's,
yeah.
This is like, if there was nothing else going on tonight, you know, i.e. 2 MJ 101s, the Will Chamberlain uniform, of course, the Honus Wagner, this might be the talk of the town, a whole set of PMG greens. It's almost interesting that it hasn't been getting much. I haven't seen much talk about it anyway. There's the Brett Favre right there. There's the Emmett right over here. And there's Dan Marino. So Jerry Rice will be somewhere in here, I have to think. Did we see the Jerry? Not seeing him here yet. Maybe he's on page 2. But yeah, crazy offering here. Like somebody must have put this set together and decided, all right, enough is enough. Time to find it a new home, and that's what they're doing. So let's go see if we can find the Jerry Rice on page 2 here. I'm not sure how many cards are in the set. It looks like the Jerry isn't there, but there's the Aikman as well. So interesting stuff, man. Good evening to Michael Ham. The Hobby with Cage says it's bidded. Oh, he's talking about the reserve on Heritage, but under the reserve, so it won't sell. Right, Cage. But my question to Cage, if he knows, is are there any bids at all? Like, doesn't the bid encroach upon and get closer to the reserve? I don't see where any bid is, or because it says the reserve is $2,250,000. I think that's what it says. So
maybe maybe it's programmed in. That's the only thing you could bid is if you hit that number.
Yeah, maybe. Michael Ham loves the Lou Gehrig. Ben Burrows says, I don't think Heritage shows bid activity for individual items. You can look at recent as a group. Okay, that's what we did see. Perimeter says, please do eye appeal check on the Mike, Kelly, Allen, and Ginter as well, especially the back. I'll keep that in mind, Perimeter. Dan says, non-playing days, Ruth, I cannot understand why it's so pricey. Well, it's a 1948 Leaf card, Dan. That's a very well-collected set by many, many people, and it's Babe Ruth. I think it's simply because it's from the 1948 set, which David Chase is going to talk a bit more later, maybe, and he makes a great case for it. I definitely think. Jacob Dahl, Jeremy or Joe, what are your thoughts on the Leaf? Well, we got to that already, Jake Dahl. Look at that. Sweet baby Jackie, Michael Ham. Chris from Missouri. What's up, Chris? I think Chris is coming on with us not next week, but the week after. Looking forward to have Chris from Missouri here on Sports Cards Live. Everybody. So Joe, we're going to start over again. Greg got here a little bit late, so we're going to start the show.
Okay. Well, good. Yeah. Let's roll it back.
We'll just start. Good to have you. Good to have you. As always, Greg. No doubt. Dan says, I'm happy to be here with Bob Boozle. Absolutely. Ben says there's already a new record for the Frank Thomas no name. Yeah, I'm sure that's setting a record tonight. Colin Murray is here. What's going on, Kinger? Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Jimmy Kirby, good to have you. What do you think about the grade 6 Babe Ruth? What do you think the value is? Yeah, for the game. What is happening? Welcome. Mike Petty bought that Marinovich in a 7, though. It's a great rate. Petty, I want to copy that myself, too. And I don't think it'll be too hard to find a great copy of that card here in due course. Stukes here says, Flippers offered my LCS a Pete rookie in PSA 9 for $19K. They turned it down. Well, people are going to make those. What's up, Shaheen? Welcome. All right. Too many comments for me to get through all of them. Foul Ball says, Jeremy, what if you found a nice raw card? Would you be a buyer? Oh, he's talking about the Maravich, I believe. I probably would, but I would still want, because all my vintage cards are in holders. So I want them. I like uniformity, just like you do, Foul Ball. Keep them in your binder sort of thing. So I would want to get a slab copy eventually. Tony thinks those 101 Jordans are epic. They really, really are. Ben Burrows would rather have the 1998 for the photo, just for the photo. And it's a horizontal copy. So Ben, how do you feel about the horizontal nature of it? I think Petty says, if you want to be happy with the rest of your life, never make pretty women your wife. Just what? Okay, Petty. Interesting comment. But Petty does not. He does not have the same approach to vehicles as he has to women, because he drives a very nice vehicle. Sammy Thunder, which we got to go into, Joe, was a fun ride in that. It was like a flying saucer. What is up, Sammy Thunder? Welcome to the show. Yeah, Orlando agrees. The 8.5 Gretzky looks better than the 9. Glad to hear that I'm not alone on that. Michael Rader says PSA is overrated. Their vintage graders are trash. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Trash is a strong word, Michael, but I would just say they're just very inconsistent. It's everyone's talking about it, so Good evening, Brad's Vintage. Welcome. Bobby Burrell. Heck of a breakdown on the Gretzky cards, Jeremy. I am jealous. Yeah, they're nice cards, Bobby. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Okay, Joe. Oh wait, what's Sammy Thunder say? Man, I can only really afford to buy anything from one auction per year. I commend those that can spend their hobby dollar far and wide. Yeah, well, that's Sammy, why I often say, there's a lot of talk right now on the YouTube interwebs about values of cards and people that care versus don't care about card value. And that's why I always say, Sammy, that whenever it's significant money to me, which is going to be different than significant money to anybody else, I consider the value. I consider the eventual exit of the card, and whether it is simply going to be, will I lose money? Will it be a store of value? Will it keep up with inflation? Or is it something I think can possibly earn me a profit upon eventual sale? We just don't know. You gotta go with your gut, your experience, your intuition on that thing. Joe, let's go there for a second, Joe. When it comes to buying cards and thinking about value, because I do, like if I'm spending $1,000 on a card, I'm not really interested in that card going down in value. That's not gonna make me happy to spend $1,000 on a card to see it going down in value. And I've probably spent $1,000 on cards before that have gone down in value, and I'm not bent about it, but it's not something I try to do. So I try to use intuition and experience and gut feel as to, what card would at least not go down in value, which is kind of the worst case scenario I want to get myself into. Is it doesn't go down, or it doesn't go up in value, I guess, is the worst case scenario. The best is it doesn't go down in value. So how much of a factor is intuition for you, Joe, when it comes to deploying your capital into cards and the future valuations?
Well, a lot of times I'm so impulsive that intuition is all I'm really operating on. But in the best of circumstances, I do get some time to do a little research, and so it's a balance of maybe what you see out there, kind of any patterns, any recents, any developments or trajectories. But all that said, I want to be happy acquiring the card. Like, that's probably more important. And that doesn't mean the other part isn't important too. Two things can be true. So yeah, I'm guided generally, not always, but I'm guided generally by some degree of rational, logical, data-driven, comparisons. And yet sometimes, overdrive kicks in, and it's just like, well, and it's going to be very contextual to the price of the card. The higher the price, the less, you can't mess around with your real life budget and money and that kind of stuff. So you do want to be cognizant of when you're stepping into deeper waters. You want to kind of know how big the ocean is today, and what's going on with the undertow. But for smaller stuff, all the time I use my intuition, and all the time I don't really look. Dylan talks a lot about this, and I was hanging out with him at the show, and I had the Card Ladder app out. He was like, "Oh my God, I've never seen, like doing this with Card Ladder at the same time. That's interesting." We were looking at the Duke Kahanamaku card that he picked up. And so, but his radar is pretty darn good. So it doesn't end up being something that is anything else. Like, he got a little mantle run. I don't know if you saw his video where he picked up some really nice mantles. And yeah, if you let yourself get sort of dictated by that, you're not going to pull those cards in. And I've done some eye appeal cards recently where I've paid 15 to 30% above comps. And you have a little momentary sort of like, and then you're like, when you actually get the card, you're super stoked. You're like happy that you have this like premium 5 or 4, you know, and it's like, whoa, so cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's I mean, it's someone just said here, Michael, no, sorry, it's Rob Star here says, no matter how much I love the card, exit strategy is always top of mind before buying. And that's probably because Rob Star doesn't have an unlimited budget, which I don't either. You don't. I mean, most of us, I'd say all of us listening and watching don't. So we're all in that same sort of arena, if you will. And not only do we not have an unlimited budget, but sometimes we stretch our budget. We stretch into a pool of funds that are like, we might stretch into our rainy day fund. We might stretch into the family operating account. We might stretch into our savings account sometimes to buy a card if the right card appears at the right moment. Maybe we don't buy it along with in any sort of consolidation sort of mechanism in terms of moving out of cards to get it, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, it's I certainly care about the values of my car. And it's funny. I want to thank John, 3D80s kid, for doing the video that started a lot of this conversation just a couple days ago. And he did a nice piece bringing the Hobby Spectrum project into it. So thank you, John, for shining some light on that. I hope that people have been enjoying that. Some cool features rolling out. One's actually just rolled out today. I just haven't talked about it yet, but there's more features coming. But anyway, yeah, John did that. And, you know, there's some people that they don't care about the value of the cards. And hey, like, I love that. That's great. You know, that's great, but it doesn't mean that that's how everybody is or has to be. And so, yeah, good stuff there. I'm going to do a couple more comments here, Joe, if you don't mind. First of all, Josh and Brad let me know that Jerry Rice was there. So thank you guys for that. And then Mike Ham says, with the amount people are paying for cards right now, are we at the top again? Because we're seeing some crazy card surface that haven't in the past. The thing about the top is you never know you're there until you're no longer there. So we might be, Mike Ham. We just might be, but time will tell for sure. And we can look back and say it. Cage says, nowhere near the reserve on the Chamberlain. So once they reveal the reserve, the bids go away. Okay, that makes sense. But nice, and thank you to Dan Brown for letting us. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see the bid. So I didn't scroll all the way to the bottom, but Daniel Brown is right, and there it is. Total. Where did I see it here? Total bids and registered phone bidders. 15 bids. This is on the Wilt. This is on the Wilt jersey. 15. You got to go all the way down. 15 bids on the Wilt. 165 people tracking it. 14,000 views. 1 hour left. But I did notice also in the chat, looks like there's been, where did those, here we go. Oh, we're up to 1 point. Oh, we're just shy of 2. You know, I call this, yeah, this card just got Scaramucci'd, guys. This card just got Scaramucci'd, which is what happens when a card goes up basically, 3 to 4x in the final moments of the auction, because that's what happened with the Pikachu Illustrator on Golden last week. Go ahead, Joe. You're. Well,
I'm wondering. So on this one, it says proxy bidding ends in 15 or so minutes. What do you think is meant by that? Is that like it's going to move to 60-second intervals or something?
I think proxy bidding means that maybe you can't. Maybe it means you cannot bid in excess of the next incremental bid anymore, because proxy bids are usually. I know on eBay that means that you're just making your max. It's like a max bid. So, and then the system will bid for you in increments up to that because you put in a maximum bid. But this card is now at 1.9 million, 15 minutes left. And yeah, this card has basically almost tripled today, I think. Close, not quite. Well, close to it close to tripling today alone. So
I really didn't know if it was going to get to 2 mil like they suggested in terms of the price, but now that it's here, it'd be interesting to see how much further it goes up.
It will be, and to learn who the buyer is going to be, which you got to think on a card like this, we will find out eventually. So yeah, there we
that's big.
Yeah, 2,043,000. Well, we'll keep letting us know in the chat too, guys, but we'll keep our eyes on it. Joe, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, can it catch the Wagner?
Well, where's the Wagner at now? Let me just find the Wagner has been bid up. It is now at 2.5 million. So that has received a bid.
Look at that. So getting close to half the price of the previous one that we saw just sell like 1 week ago?
Half the price, pretty much. Yep, just under half the price. That is correct. That is correct. Orlando lets us know there's a complete C56 hockey setup for sale tonight. That is the first set of hockey cards ever produced, and there's a complete set going off tonight on Heritage as well. Josh from 90s Auctions speaking about the 48 Leaf Babe Ruth says it's a Ruth tribute card. It came out right after he died. He goes on to say it's the first card in the set, but this is actually the first card in the set. You can see the number 1 right there on my Joe DiMaggio 48 Leaf card, which I picked up at the National this past year.
Joe DiMaggio.
Orlando says it's DiMaggio, not Ruth. There we go, Orlando. Attaboy coming, who's also going to be coming on Sports Cards Live in due course here. We just chatted today. Rob Star says no matter how much. Oh, we talked about Rob Star's comment already. Michael Rader says value is important. Buy the best card for the price. Yeah, for sure. And the best card does not mean the highest graded. It just simply does not mean that, like I think it used to many of us. So what's this here? Trees and cardboards. The Scaramouche. Get a card for $2 million and claim it's worth $100 million a week later. Didn't he say? So here's the thing about that. Scaramouche's father, I forget his first name. He came out and said that card. I think people perceived his comments when he said that card is worth $200 million. I think what he really said was that card generated $200 million in free media attention, which maybe that's the case. Maybe you would have had to spend $200 million to get that kind of attention. But the question becomes, what did they spend $200 million on? Flexing that they own a card? Like what was that? What was the media attention promoting for them other than the fact that they bought the card? I don't know. And I don't know what their plans are with that card, except to have a museum of very rare, treasure hunt kind of items. But just because something you do generates $200 million in media spend doesn't mean that you got $200 million in value for your supposed spend. So I'm a little confused about that. I don't think they think it's worth 200 million. I think that they think they got 200 million worth of value out of buying that card. But okay. Thank you, Hodges. Welcome to the show. Says gave the video a like, and hello, everybody. His father is Anthony Scaramucci. Thank you very much to Mike Petty for that. And Dan says that card was a nice way to launder crypto money from FTX. As Dan is an attorney, I assume it sounds to me like Dan is speaking in fact. So interesting, Dan. I'd love to see you do a video presenting just presenting the case for that, because that should be picked up, right? If that's the case, the evidence is probably really important. So I'd really like to get an understanding of your sources on that. And if this is a speculative comment by Dan, then I think a lot of people share that potential. What's up, Found Treasures? Welcome to the show. Mikey says the guy did say he thought the Pikachu was $100 million card. Yeah, well, and maybe it will be one day. I remember when people were giving, oh God, here's a blast from the past, although we saw him at the West Coast Card Show, Sasha T. Said years ago, he said that he thought that the Charizard PSA 10 first edition holo would be $1 million card one day, back when it was about 300 grand. Well, guess what? It's now sold for just a hair under $1 million, Joe. So
he was right. It was good to see Sasha T. He's a nice guy.
Oh, he's a very nice guy. Very nice guy. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We got Leighton in the back room, Joe. Before we bring him on, was there anything else? We had something to talk about, but
yeah, I know later in the show, and I'm going to dip out and then pop back in, but I know you all are going to be talking about that Jackie, and I find that just a real fascinating conversation because that card has become sort of iconic, and it's made a few runs, making another, and but I was lucky enough to pick that up in a premier auction last Thursday. I guess it was the Thursday before last. And, since I'd been shopping for nearly, 6 months, and I traded out my Beater Joe other example at the Burbank show. It's just such an interesting card in terms of like the balance between centering and then registration and color and saturation. And I ended up with an off-centered one, but I'm happy with it. For some reason, the off-center doesn't bother me, and maybe that's because I've seen how happy you've been with yours all these years. And anyway, but
there's my off-centered copy.
Yeah,
I do love it.
It doesn't jump out at you for some reason. I don't know if it's the shape of the card, maybe being a little more boxy. It's, your top to bottom is pretty good, and so the left to right doesn't jump out to me as much. And then you just what I really appreciate about that card is, the color combination of the blue and the yellow, and kind of like how that paint went on when they printed the card. So anyway, I look forward to hearing the conversation and learning more about the assessment of that one. That's been, like you said, kind of a poster child of the eye appeal movement. And you and Leighton did a fantastic job, I thought, breaking that down on your latest drop. I think it came out yesterday. Go check that out, everybody. But I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I think there's a lot of collectors paying attention to this very dialogue. So it's cool that it gets Sports Card Live.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fun. So a couple things really quick here. First of all, someone mentioned, and I'm not seeing it, but the Jordan got another bid. It's now over 2 million. It's now $2,043,000 on the Jordan, while the Garagiola is still at $2,500,000, the Garagiola Honus Wagner. So we will we'll come back to watching those. Midlife says Joe traded a pile of dog poop for a beautiful leaf Jackie. I love and there we go. Dan Brown was one that updated us on the MJ hitting $2 million. And Mike Petty likes my Jackie, says he calls me Hucklebuck. It's like a it's his pet name for me. He calls me his Hucklebuck, Yeah, we're that close now after he got to chauffeur us around in Burbank there, or in Ontario a little bit. Orlando, thank you for saying that video was great. Stuke said enjoyed the Eye Appeal episode with Jeremy and Leighton this week. Appreciate that. Eye Appeal also applies to rock cards. Of course it does. Of course. Now, before I bring on Leighton and before you go, Joe, I want to do a quick commercial for my friends at Kronozio, you guys, because they sent me some stuff, and I want to share it with you guys what they're doing. So let me do this and share with you. They're trading cards to cash business in a box. They have two versions of it, guys. This is basically the regular bundle, okay? It comes with a Canon scanner. Now, I'll tell you what, it comes with this scanner right here. They sent me these things, so I got a couple scanners here now. Every one of their business in a box comes with some bubble mailers. It comes with some top loaders and some sleeves, and then it comes with this, which is the key to their AI platform. You can list like thousands of cards in minutes. It's unbelievable, actually, the way they do it. And then they have the bigger one, guys. Check this out. This is the big one. This one does 2,500 cards per month, I believe it is. And this one comes with this bad boy Ricoh scanner right here, you guys. So they partnered up with Ricoh, and they have that scanner right there. It comes with the same package of stuff, and it also comes with the feeder and the place where the cards go after they run through. It'll do raw cards, it'll do graded cards. But I want to read you the text here, guys. Finally, there is an easy and quick way to organize your boxes of raw cards and turn some of them into cash. Check out Kronozio, an AI-powered collection assistant that allows boxes of raw cards to be scanned, documented, and listed for sale in just minutes. Works with sports cards, TCG, slabs, and raw cardboard. There's 2 bundles available on eBay, Walmart.com, Amazon, and certain hobby stores, as I just showed you. Whether you are a collector or a hobby store looking to expand your business, go to Kronozio.com to learn more. All right. Thank you to Kronozio for supporting what we're doing here on Sports Cards Live. All right.
So I just got a message from someone who said that I'm actually Hucklebuck. I don't know.
So my heart. Okay,
Maybe.
Petty just broke my heart. My heart is now broken. I thought I was his Hucklebuck, Joe.
Well, maybe
Joe's
he needs
got to go, guys. Joe's got to go.
really ask Petty to make himself clear, because it's a little vague. Mike's usually pretty clear with his words. Maybe he can clarify this for us. Who's the real Hucklebuck?
Yeah, let us know. I'm going to believe it's you. Brad says, is that that Rico scanner has a feed for slabs? Yes, it does, Brad's Vintage. It has a feeder for slabs, amazingly. So very cool. And I sat with them at the Burbank Card Show. They were at the West Coast Card Show. They were there set up right across from Burbank Sports Cards, Joe, where you did your big deal. And these guys are making moves over at Kronozio. They're doing good things. Joe is Hucklebuck. All right, Petty.
So
I think I might be Porcupine. Porcupine. Oh, there it is. Jeremy's nickname is Porcupine.
That's your pet name.
Oh, but look at this. Look who's coming to save me. Cage. Since Petty broke your heart, Jeremy, I will tell you that you have eye appeal. Well, thank you, Cage. If you can see it in my shiny head here, I appreciate that. Okay. Joe, I've got both Leighton and David Chase in the back, so you're gonna hop off. We'll see you back here in about an hour. He's gonna go and come back, guys. He's got some errands to run.
Have fun. I'm gonna eat a little food, take a quick little walk, and try and catch as much of this good content as I can. I'll see you in about an hour.
Sounds good, buddy. Take care. All right, guys, we're gonna switch it up, and we're gonna bring on none other than Mr. Hold on. Oh man, I've been playing with my. There we. I've been playing, Leighton. I've been playing with my StreamYard settings. That's the second week in a row that I'm kind of messing that up. But how are you, buddy? Good to see you again. Oh, look at that new shirt for Auction Wire.
Absolutely. I'm good, thanks. How about yourself?
Doing well. It's nice. We've had a nice response so far to our latest episode of Vintage Spotlight, which, guys, it did drop yesterday on YouTube and on podcast. Yeah, I mean, we got David Chase in the back. What do you think of that? Are you watching Heritage tonight, Leighton?
Yeah, I was watching before, but a special shout out to our friend Joe, who helped turn around the episode of Vintage Spotlight really quickly. So we really appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, you're Joe from your shop. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got a great team over there at Just Collect. Appreciate it's always fun doing the show with you. And you and I collaborate a lot, but it's nice that I've gotten to know your team. Like Monty and John and Joe, and it's nice when I come to your booth at any show. It's always great to see you, but the whole team is always very warm to me. It's always just I feel kind of at home at your booth. You leave if I want to put my jacket down, sort of thing. You're very very accommodating. So thank you for that. And we've got this. Here it is, Leighton. We got the Garajola copy still at $2.5 million here. A minute left. So this thing might just be over in 90 seconds. Where does this value sit for you, Joe, in terms of expectations? Or is this where you thought it would be? What do you think? Did I call you Joe just there? If I did, I meant Leighton.
You did, but I'm hoping you're referring to Garagiola. So, but anyway, I thought it'd be a little bit higher. But to be clear, right, it could still go higher. Just because there's a minute left doesn't mean anything. We got to wait till it's over, like Yogi says.
Absolutely. I just want to, Mookie Chilson has come up with a new TV show. It's now called Porcupine and Hucklebuck. It's the new Starsky and Hutch. I love that, Mookie. Very good. Hey, Mike Petty is the executive producer, though, obviously. Midlife Greg says David Chase is an awesome guy. Looking forward to having him on. Yeah, and Jay, we'll be bringing David on. We're just a couple minutes behind, but we'll bring him on momentarily. And we got to just go check in on this one again. We're now still at 2,043,000, and we're at 536.8 on the other MJ 1 of 1. So these cards are still rocking and rolling. Leighton,
where are the Hogan boots at?
Say again.
The Hogan boots from WrestleMania 1. Those things were at $400,000. It's insane. It's going to be the highest selling wrestling item ever.
That's incredible. Well, congrats to the wrestling. I know the wrestling community is a very passionate community here within our overall hobby. So congratulations to that group. I mean, to that genre within our hobby. It's nice for them that's happening. And hey, it's Hulk Hogan. I mean, it appeals to everybody pretty much, I have to think. No?
I mean, the guy wrote on the boots, "These are my boots with my blood" from WrestleMania 1. It like the provenance really doesn't get much better, does it?
Wow. Look, 750 now says vintage card collector on the boots.
Oh my God.
750
The
on the
market
boots.
is insane.
That
Wow.
is insane. Let's here we go. I found them.
Wow.
Here we are.
That's wildness.
Yeah. 612 plus BP is a hair under 750 for this pair of boots, but these are going to look great in some nightclub somewhere behind the glass, or someone's private museum as well, or a sporting goods store somewhere, whatever it might be. Incredible. Well, thank you to Vintage for staying on top of that for us too. It's always nice to get those updates from the crowd. Leighton, there was something that we didn't talk about last week when you came on that I kind of wanted to, and we're not going to be able to get into it right now, but it was, I bought those those vintage memorabilia modern cards, and, pairing them with vintage cards is a lot of fun. Like, I now have a Jackie Robinson game used card. I can put it beside my 48 Leaf Jackie, an iconic card, and kind of, round it out. But I got a message from somebody who was like, I listened to the podcast about that. I think they're, the cards are cool, but I have an issue with these historical artifacts being cut up and put into cards. And I feel like we came to terms with that a long time ago. Over 20 years ago, really, did we come to terms with that happening. But there's still people that are, I know people don't love it, and I know not everyone's come to terms with it, obviously, but it still riles some feathers out there. Where do you fall on that?
I think I would prefer that they didn't cut up substantial historical artifacts. At the same time, if they do cut it up, please get me a number in line for historical artifacts from the likes of Shoeless Joe and Babe Ruth and Will Chamberlain, right? Like, I don't want to be, the axe thrower, but if they're going to do it, I kind of would like a copy. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I'm the one thing that I kind of think is a lot of these historical artifacts, even ones selling tonight on Heritage, they may never see the light of day. They may end up just in somebody's safety deposit box, or, wherever. Well, not a game used bat probably, but they're vaulted. These items are often vaulted, and in many instances they are not publicly displayed. Now, in many they are, but that's kind of where I draw the line for myself is, if they're not going to be displayed publicly in a museum or a Hall of Fame or somewhere where the greater public can enjoy them, what's the point of them being packaged away in a trunk or a vault in somebody's, safe room to be never seen again? In that case, I say, cut them up and let hundreds of people enjoy owning a piece of them. And I know people are going to come at me for that. That's okay. That's just my personal thought on it. I don't have that emotional connection to those pieces as much, I guess. But if they're just not going to be enjoyed, why not find a way to make to enable people to enjoy them? And I think that the memorabilia card is a fine way to do that. What's your response to that? What's your take on that?
I stand on my original sentiment, which is I prefer they didn't cut up substantial historical artifacts. However, if they do, I don't want to be the one to do it. But if they do, of some substantial artifacts that I would like, that I'm a fan of, I probably would like a copy. Yeah. That being said, I'm curious because I didn't even realize it was causing a stir. There's so much going on in the world, obviously, that are, more important than sports right now. But without getting political for a moment, even though this feels political as far as hockey goes, how do you feel about the Jack Hughes golden goal puck? And I know, you're living in Canada, right? But how do you feel about it being in the Hall of Fame, but which is in Canada? And I saw some news stories out there about this, and I'm curious if you have a feeling either way. Do you think it's right? Do you think it's wrong? Because it seems like there are at least some people that are up in arms that it was the American golden goal, and even though it's in the Hall of Fame, at least for the moment, that it's in the Hall of Fame in Canada.
Well, I mean, I would say I'm okay with it being in Canada personally, even if I was an American. Let's say that the Hockey Hall of Fame was in Chicago or Detroit or New York or Boston, which would kind of make sense as the four American original six NHL teams. and that's where all of Canada's glorious items were, I don't think I'd be like, well, maybe it's awkward, but I'm not gonna get bent about it. Like, so that I've been to those cities, I'll go visit it there. Listen, I've been to Toronto. I've probably been to Toronto 100 times in my life, and I've never lived there. But I probably visited Toronto with all the expos I've been to. Oh, maybe not 100. I've probably been there 60 times, and I've been to the Hall of Fame 2 or 3 times. So I don't need to go visit these items all the time personally. So listen, I understand the frustration, but that's where the Hockey Hall of Fame is.
Totally agree. I didn't want to cut you off, man, but here's the deal. First, you nailed it. What are we going to say? That if the Hall of Fame is in a different sport in our country, that we're going to, like, it doesn't make any sense to me, right? Be proud to hold those objects. However, you nailed it. I think that there should be maybe like part 2 of the NHL Hockey Hall of Fame in one of the 4 big 6 original cities, but obviously 4 of them being in the US. I think that would be super cool. Even if it was just a temporary pop-up to hold some cool stuff.
Yeah. I think that's fine. And I will also say, now that a week has gone by, and I was, as a Canadian and a Canadian hockey fan, and I mean, I remember where I was in 96. I think it was 96. I was on an airplane having an emergency flight. I had to get somewhere in an emergency when I think the Americans beat the Canadians in whatever this tournament was called that year. I think that was back in 96 or so. 02 Olympics. I remember where, and 2010 as well. Like, yeah, I'm a pretty hardcore Canadian hockey fan. That said, I'm fine with what happened last week, and I'm really happy for my American hockey fan friends. I'm happy for the hockey hobby. I'm happy for those American players. I'm happy for the Gaudreau family. I'm happy, and I loved how classy. Like, I know there was probably some unclassy moments along the way, but the American players, to me, seem to be very classy in their win, and I have a ton of respect for that, and a ton of respect for hockey players in general. I'm just really happy. I'm happy about that. I've had some Canadian friends. What are you talking about? You're selling out to the American. What do you mean I'm selling out? I'm a fan of hockey. I'm a fan of the hobby. Canada's won their share. We'll win it again. Anybody could have won that game. So I just want my American friends to know that I am legitimately and authentically happy for you, especially those of you who are hockey fans, and we're happy to see your Americans win the tournament. So I would have preferred the Canada one, but we didn't. So I immediately go into, I'm happy for the winners. I'm happy, sad for, anyway, I've said enough about that. So all that said, I want to bring on David Chase now, Leighton, and I want to ask him his thoughts on the vintage memorabilia piece to start off the conversation. So before I bring him on, anything else that you'd like? And you're sticking around for a bit still, but
Yep.
Before we bring him on and we kind of go into that discussion, anything else on your mind before we do that?
No, looking forward to talking to David.
All right. Well, let's bring him on. David, you ready? Give me the thumbs up, buddy. All right, guys, please welcome my new friend, David California Chase. What is up, David? How are you, buddy?
Good to see you, Jeremy. Good to see you, Leighton.
How you doing, David?
Good.
David, it's good to see you again. It was such a pleasure to meet you at the West Coast Card Show. And before we get into talking about the Jackie, and there is more to the story, guys. There, just like the thumbnail said, there is more to the story. David, did you see the thumbnal, by the way?
I did. I was very impressed with that, Jeremy. You did a great job on that.
I had a lot of fun making that thumbnail, David. Before we talk,
by the way, I gave him like 3 pictures of myself. He took the one that was the least offensive. So that was nice.
I did, David. I did. David, where do you fall on that game used, like the vintage memorabilia equipment being cut up topic? Where do you fall?
I don't collect cards that have the memorabilia in it at this point. I mean, Jeremy, your collection that you ended up just starting to pick up kind of started to resonate with me with those new pickups that you ended up taking. But in general, I like the old stuff, I like vintage. And I now saw that you have some vintage cut up stuff, but I just haven't really ventured into the new stuff. I like old and boring, Yeah.
One of the things about it is, like, as a consumer of those cards, I think I can genuinely say that I did not have any part in those companies deciding to cut that up. I don't mean that I was an executive there, I mean that I wasn't buying those cards back then such that they would have known there was a market for it. I know I would have been one of millions of people, but I wasn't one of those millions of people. So my point of saying that is that here we are now, 20 years later, in some cases on those cards, they were cut up decades ago, and me and other people are purchasing them now. I know people have been buying them all along, but I feel no guilt, maybe is where I'm going. I feel no guilt on those chopping up of those items. Go ahead, David.
Now that we're starting to think about it, now that you brought it up to me the first time, here's kind of a nice part about having it cut up. You would never have a possibility of owning a piece of a Babe Ruth jersey, right? A Babe Ruth jersey would be, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, millions, like a number that we can't comprehend, right? So for you to be able to own, even if it's a small piece of it, and for that to be part of any collector's collection is kind of cool. Even though I know it's sacrilegious to cut up, it's still kind of nice that the hobby can share with that kind of piece of memorabilia.
What do you think of Leighton, as far as the hobby being able, like tons of people can own a little piece of that? Does that soften the blow of these items being cut up at all, or not at all? Because like you said, you don't want to see these items getting cut up.
Yeah, I don't think it softens the blow, but I think you described it really well, Jeremy, in that for me personally, I also did not really participate in like the ripping of packs looking for these cards. So no one asked my opinion. I didn't open packs, but yet if 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, there's a myriad of cards, right? Because that's what they are, they're cards, available that might be cool for my collection. Yeah, I don't like feel vehemently against them, but if they asked me if there was a formal vote in the hobby, no, I would not vote for hacking these things up and making more of them. At the same time, it's already done.
Yeah, it's already done, and they don't seem to be doing them many more of them with these real like vintage players that David collects, like guys who were in 48 Leaf sort of thing. We're not seeing a lot more come out from those guys, although I think Panini's done a few along the way. But yeah, it's a fun topic, and it's the last point I'll make is that a lot of people, there's the whole playing days card collecting movement, which is very exclusionary towards post playing days cards. Mickey Mantle, like our buddy Dylan, collects modern Mickey Mantle cards that are beautiful and shiny, and I think they're beautiful and shiny too. I wouldn't mind picking up a few myself, but they're way post playing days. They're post living days also. What these memorabilia cards do is the memorabilia is playing days, but the card themselves is not playing days. So it kind of bridges that gap. Okay, let's move along, guys. Yeah, Foul Ball. So who is this guy? David Chase? Well, Foul Ball, you probably walked right by him at the West Coast Card Show a couple weekends ago. But guys, David Chase, first of all, I can describe David Chase as a hybrid on the hobby spectrum. I forgot your exact score. Where did you score on the spectrum, David? Do you remember?
I was like right at the 50 number, like 51, I think, something like that.
Right in the middle. So he's he collects with for passion, but he keeps the value in mind. I think a lot of us do that, some more than others, of course. And you're also, so why don't you tell everybody who doesn't know who you are, David, a bit more about what you collect and your collecting journey thus far. And Leighton, over to you. Stick around through this if you want. If you need to go, that's okay too. But happy to see you up here with us. So over to you, David. Let's hear the story.
All right. So I started, during the junk wax time, right? I actually, my dad dragged me to baseball card shows. I wasn't really into baseball cards when I was like 7 and 8. I was into Garbage Pail Kids solely. And then as I ventured into baseball cards, my dad got me into vintage by going to these shows and getting autographs from the players of his generation. So we ended up basically getting autographs of like every, well, that's not from his generation, but like different ones like Yogi Berra and Willie Mays and Ted Williams. And I learned about these players from my dad when we ended up going to the shows, Mickey Mantle. And by the way, these autographs were like usually $5 each. I think like 3 of them were $20. You know, like Mickey Mantle, Jose Canseco, and Ted Williams, I think were 20. But other than that, they were like $3 or $5 to see them. So that's how I learned about vintage. I was into modern. I didn't care about vintage at all when I was growing up. But then as I ended up getting older and getting back into cards after, you know, around the COVID time, I started to just fall in love with vintage as I kind of helped my dad put his collection together that he had, sent it in for grading and things like that.
David?
For the first time. And yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You were delayed for 10 seconds, but you're back.
Okay, good. So my dad was very into the 50s tops, the golden age. So I started to look for other things outside of that. And one of the things that I looked into, the Leaf set just struck a chord with me. And I really believed that that set was just different than any other baseball set. I think that there's art that's a part of that set. That's a little rock and roll. It's a little punk. It's a little gangster to see that set. I really think that it looks a lot like graffiti. It looks like stencil art. If you have like a Shepard Fairey or Banksy, it looks like the kind of stencil work that would be on a wall. And the cool thing about that set is the bad card, the cards that are beaten and run over look very cool, but also the nice ones look very cool. And it's one of the only sets that the beaters are very, very cool cards, right? And as I progressed through collecting different Leaf cards, I started to get more and more picky and OCD about it. And one of the ways that I tried to collect is my version of collecting is trying to find, my game is the lowest graded card with the best eye appeal. And I've been like that for many years. I feel like it's kind of, it's gained a lot of traction, unfortunately, over the years for me, for my collecting, because it has gotten more expensive to be able to find those kind of cards. But I love trying, my perfect card would be a PSA 1 with a little bit of paper loss on the back that looks perfect, right? Yeah. And when I pick up a card, I love the card, but I don't always fall in love with my version of the card. And I know that that's different than a lot of people where they have an emotional attachment to the card they pick up. I don't have that as much for most of my cards. For me, I am trying to upgrade as I buy a card, especially in that set, to try to find one that has better centering, better registration. And man, it is tough for this set to find those kind of cards. And it is a treasure hunt that I love trying to collect.
Do you ever upgrade by downgrading technical grade?
All the time.
So you will move out of a PSA 4 for a PSA 2 that is nicer than the 4, and to you that is an upgrade.
That is an upgrade, and that is my goal, is to get all ones if I can, that have the best eye appeal, that look better than the 2s, 3s, or 4s that I own. And by the way, when you're buying nice eye appeals, 2s, 3s, and 4s, you're going to sell them for a very high premium, and it's going to more than pay for that beautiful one most of the time. Right? Another
piece of evidence that eye appeal is winning. You know, it is, or it's at least starting to win. Leighton, David just went through a whole bunch of his reasons for the 48 Leaf set as a vintage expert yourself. I'm sure you have some thoughts going on, even if it's just affirming a few things, or defirming. What's going through your mind as you listen to David introduce himself to the crowd here tonight?
Well, David, first, it's great to come across you on our journey in the treasure hunts that we call baseball card collecting. Second, I think that you described the set well. If you were talking in front of thousands of people and giving a dissertation as to why 48 Leaf baseball, and what I mean is not just collectors, but like anyone. And I think you did a wonderful job of describing that. Also, I don't know if you make content, but I'll tell you, man, if you don't, you should share your journey. Like, I want to see when you go from a 3 to a 1, and the 1 is better that you like for your collection, and you're getting rid of the 3. I would love to see that personally. I'm sure others would as well.
Well, thank you.
And so David, let's talk a bit about the card and the card that sold. Not any old 48 Leaf Jackie Robinson, but that PSA 1 that sold on eBay by PSA very recently. Before we do that, really quick though, I want to say hi to Chad Shipper here in the chat. What's up, my friend? Good to see you. Brad's Vintage said, very cool autograph binder there to David Chase. Mike Petty, and I think I will agree. It was nice meeting your father as well. David, I got to talk to him at the show for a bit, and loves the photo album. Should get one for all my signed photos. Yeah, put them in an album, Petty. Come on. Josh at 90s Auction says that the 48 Leaf is the best set ever. Tony says it looks like a Warhol painting. And then Petty's like not even listening to what Tony's saying. He's like, oh, they remind me of an Andy Warhol painting. To which Tony says, I just said that, Petty. What do you oh, but look at the classy Southern Tony says, instead of saying, I just said that, he's like, well, great minds think alike. Very, very nice interaction in the chat, fellas. I'm just having fun with it myself. Yeah, it's a great, hey, there's Fresh Prince of Sports Cards. Got to meet him at the West Coast Card Show as well. Okay, so David, the PSA 1 Jackie Robinson hits eBay last month at some point. Leighton, you know the copy. We talked about it on Vintage Spotlight. Beautiful, beautiful copy, David. When you saw it, I want to get into your head here. I want people to hear. You saw that card, and it really changed your life for about 6 weeks or so, maybe not that long. What happened to you emotionally, chemically in your brain? What happened when you saw that card, and tell us the path you went down? And I just want to bring up, right before, for me to find, I do have a version of the 48 Leaf Jackie. Okay. And that was my dream card for a few years. And when I saved the money to buy it, it took me 2 years to find the copy that I was going to buy. Okay. And that's once I had the money, and that's me going to nationals and big card shows. I could not find the centered low grade version that I wanted. Okay. So just to let you know, before this, I ended up getting the card that I loved. That's a SGC 1.5 that's perfectly centered as a Jackie. Okay. But when I saw this card and I saw how hard it was to find a good looking Jackie, and mine looks beat. Okay. Even though it's centered. But this card just blew my mind. Okay. I know how hard it is to find Leaf cards. I look at every Leaf card that is put up for auction. Okay. That's on eBay. I use Auction Wire. All right. To be able to find any kind of Leaf cards that are for sale, because that's my passion to collect them. And that Jackie, it caused me to have mental problems, to be honest with you. My poor wife. Okay. Because it totally consumed me. All right. And I saw it, and I just started basically drooling over this card. And I could not believe that there was a Jackie that existed that is a 1 that looked like that card. And the more I thought about, and by the way, I started doing this is so nerdy, but I started doing even 15-minute videos talking about this card, because in my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to get this card, and this is going to be the card that I pass down to my 8-year-old son. This is a card I'm never going to sell. This is the card. And I also knew, which is now what's being talked about, which I have a lot of videos of me discussing, that this was going to be the face of eye appeal. Yeah. And that this was going to be discussed for a long time, this card, and it was going to change the way people are going to be talking about PSA 1s for a long time. Yeah. And I really believed that at the time. And when you're asking me where I was in my head, I had sleepless nights. That's how crazy I was about this. I was thinking about it all the time. It was hard for me to work. Okay. Thankfully, it was a PSA auction, so it was only 10 days and not the REA Heritage 30-day extravaganza. But because it was a PSA auction, which is unlike a lot of other auctions, there's a lot of other problems with that, right? Usually a card like this is not an auction on PSA. It's a buy it now, or it's on one of the larger auctions. And I knew that the hardest thing was going to be for me to figure out the price I was going to pay, because it wasn't going to allow me to bid against somebody in extended bidding, like what you did with your Joe Jackson, where you get into a bidding war and decide to go back and forth where you know where the price is going. You have to put your top bid in and just pray. Mm-hmm. And that was a very scary thought, but I also thought that maybe it will go for less because it doesn't have the fighting mentality that you went through on your Joe Jackson. Yeah. You know absolutely. I hear exactly what you're saying. And the when you saw it and you said when you saw it for the first time, did you like you had sleepless nights, but realize, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna own this card, but you didn't want to talk about it really with people. You didn't want to almost like let people know you were going to go for it because you don't want to bring more attention to it. You want to cut, you kind of want to keep it to yourself a bit, which is funny because it didn't take long for many talking heads in the hobby, many posts on social media to call attention to how beautiful the copy was. I said on a somewhat recent episode of Sports Cards Live, I think you would even ask the question, would I ever get out? Would I ever trade up by trading down sort of thing on a card? And I said, sure I would, except for maybe my Jackie rookie, because I love it so much. And then I saw that card as well, David, on eBay on PSA. And I thought to myself, boy, ones usually sell for $7-8 grand. If I can get this thing for under double that, around $15,000, I'm gonna be a player on that, and I'm gonna sell this one. And that was an exception. I didn't expect there to be an exception, but there was an exception to that. And then it was funny because I'm thinking about it, and then I get an email from a viewer of the show named David Chase, who I've never communicated with before outside of the chat, and I get an email from you. So why don't you kind of tell a bit of that story from there? Before you do, though, I want to keep Leighton in this discussion too. He has so much to add all the time. And where I want to go to with Leighton and you before we continue down your story is, I also agree, David, that PSA 1 Jackie Robinson should be, and likely will become the poster child card for Eye Appeal. It would be a Hall of Famer on Matty C's Eye Appeal Inc. Absolute Hall of Famer card. Okay. Leighton, any thoughts, anything else from you before we hear more of David's story based on the last few minutes here?
No, I'm looking forward to hearing about this email.
All right, David, back over to you, buddy.
So, by the way, when I spoke to Jeremy or text, I'm a chatter on this show, obviously. And when I ended up sending that chat, that was weeks before this Jackie was on our radar. Okay. And I asked him specifically, if you found a one Jackie that you loved at a show, would you ever change? And he said, no, I have emotional attachment to mine. So in my mind, I was thinking, I am not going to reach out to any person in the hobby. I was telling some of my friends that think that I'm a crazy baseball lunatic, but nobody in the hobby I'm going to discuss this with, except for the one person that told me that he's not going to go for this card. And the one person who also knows this experience because he fell in love with a Joe Jackson card and overbid in people's eyes for that card, which ends up now being like an amazing investment, but to take that to the side. But I thought that he would understand what this card would mean and in that situation, and he's not going to be going for it. So I sent a cryptic email to him that said, basically, I know about your Joe Jackson. I know we kind of knew each other from the chat, but I would love to discuss with you about a card that is keeping me up at night, that is making me crazy. I didn't tell him which card it was because I was trying to feel him out just to be a little careful. And I sent the email to him, and he very quickly replies back to me. And my worst nightmare was the response. His response to me was, David, I'm sorry to tell you this, but there's a card that's also keeping me up at night too. And I have a pretty good feeling that it's the same card, ... Jackie. And my heart sank. Okay.
He writes back to me. I just threw up in my mouth a little, something like that.
I was like, because in my mind, okay, I'm thinking, and maybe not Jeremy's card, but people that have a card that is like Jeremy's, that has a relatively, what is yours, a 4.5 or something crazy like that?
My Jackie?
Yeah, what's your Jackie? 6?
It's a 6. It's a 6.
It's a 6. Okay. So
but David, it's a 6 graded in like the late 90s, early 2000s. It's probably a 4.5 or a 5 nowadays. If it's got great corners, edges, surface. It's a centering problem. probably a 5 nowadays.
Don't downgrade it. It's an incredible card, Jeremy. Okay, I mean it's a beautiful one. But here was my scary thought from this was that would somebody, if you compared both cards next to each other, would somebody trade that 6 for this card? As crazy as it sounds, right? It is very tough to look at both cards next to each other and choose the one with the higher grade with the eye appeal of this specific card. And I know that sounds very crazy to a lot of people who care about the grade because of what I think that the max was like 13,000 back in COVID times. And I think 11 or 12,000 in the more recent times. But I thought that Jeremy might have looked into doing something like that. And others were going to look at that had higher versions of this card that could trade down the way that I trade down, right, for these leaf cards that I was talking about. So that's what scared me about that part of the story.
Well, it was.
Keep going.
Well, I mean, it was. You know, when I wrote the email back to you, I was also like, ooh, I think it's Jackie, but if it isn't, I don't want to tip him off to that Jackie card. So, but I couldn't not because I'm like, it has to be like this card is spectacular. And to your point, you know, you put that Jackie in a showcase at a card show beside my Jackie. My eyes are going straight to that one, not to mine. My eyes are going to that one all day long. You know, I'll look at this one too, obviously, and probably could afford this one more than that one. Although maybe not because a 6 versus a 1 is still going to have some power. But is that power deserved? I don't really think so. I think so. So continuing on now. Yeah, I'll let you continue in whatever direction you want to go, but I do have some questions about your thoughts on it, but I'll let you lead it to continue.
So let me go through my craziness, okay?
Sure.
Me being a complete psychopath on this card, all right? So I start, because it's so consuming to me, I have to put in the time to figure out how am I going to figure out the price of this card? And how am I also going to figure out what I'm willing to pay? So that meant, by the way, I do not spend this kind of money on cards. Okay. I have a couple of cards that are over a few $1,000s. So this card, I knew that I was going to do this to. I do have a lot of cards. Not a lot. I have like 150 cards, but they are, they're a lot of them are a few $1,000s. Okay. So I ended up putting a bunch of them to the side, thinking that this is going to be my ammunition for this card. And I'm looking at the cards that I'm giving away or selling compared to this Jackie, and it was not a comparison, okay? This Jackie meant more to me than a lot more than the cards that I was giving up, which was a significant amount of money, okay? So this wasn't coming from, I was going to be fronting the money, but I had ways to sell my cards in a very fast way after I ended up making this plan. So then the thought is, how am I going to research this? So what I did as a crazy person is I went on to one of these websites, a card ladder kind of website. And I looked up literally starting with every Jackie that has ever sold since 2015 in a PSA 1, an SGC 1, an SGC 1.5, a PSA 1, all the way up to like a PSA SGC 3, which took me a couple of days. Okay. I literally looked at every single photo of those cards and I saved the photos of the best looking versions of those cards into a folder. Okay. And then me being a crazy person started looking side by side of those cards. And I am telling you, there was nothing that was even close to that card. So then I started moving up. I started going to 3.5s and 4s and 4.5s and 5s. And I am telling you that there was like a 5 that looked very similar, but it kind of had a weird cut to it. And sometimes I would find it that there's 2 versions of this Jackie card. There's one that has like a blue blob hat, and there's one that has the more definition of the hat. I like the one with the definition more than the blue blob, but there's different strokes for different folks. There's less of the blue blob hats, but to me, that when I picture that Jackie card, I picture the one with the definition on the hat. So I start going even higher to 6s, to 6.5s, to 7s, to 7.5s. And I am not exaggerating to you. You can literally go onto these websites and look at every single 7, 8, 9 And there's only been one 9 that is sold at an auction. And this card, if you go side by side, it is better centered. And the eye appeal is even better. And I could not find, in my opinion, there's one on eBay right now that's an SGC 9 that's being trying to sell for $12.5 million. Okay. Yeah. That card is crazy. All right. But besides that card, it's the best one that I've ever seen. And to me, I started to think this is $1 million card in a PSA 1 holder. Okay. And I understand that there's a staple in it. And I'm thankful that there's a staple in it, because if there wasn't a staple in it, I could never have this card. Okay. So I love that there's holes in this card to make it where it's dumbed down to be able to make it where it's halfway affordable to me, which it's not, but by me selling a large part of my collection. Right.
Yeah.
So that was my mindset as I'm figuring this out and putting it together and trying to find prices. And then it's just, what is it going to take to win this auction? Right. That's the next step, which is a very scary thought. Right.
So let's talk about that for a moment, because back to our communication, which was, we had a couple more emails going on during the auction being live on eBay. And you said to me, I think something like, I know what my max bid is going to be. And this is when the card was around $10,000 or so. You're like, I know what my max bid is going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it, but it's the most I'll have ever spent on a card, et cetera, et cetera. I'm thinking to myself, okay, at this point, I'm like, listen, I'm not as interested in buying it for myself. You really, I was backing off a little bit, let's say. And then the bid got higher and higher. It got to 15,000. I'm like, okay, I'm going to step away now. I'm definitely out. Not that I didn't place a bid on it at all, but I was definitely out at that point. And I was wondering about you. I was wondering because you didn't tell me what your max bid was. And had you told me, that might have had an impact on me a little bit. I don't know. But how did you sort of arrive at what would be your maximum bid? Because if the nicest one that ever sold before was around 10 grand, I literally very naively thought the card is going to sell for $17,000. Well, it did $27,600, I believe it was. Talk a bit now. Take us through coming up with your max bid, what you were willing to pay on it, etc.
And right before I'm going to answer your question, but I also did a lot of due diligence to make sure that I wasn't going to have any issues when I was making this bid. So a couple of things that I ended up doing was I contacted a sniping company, because I was thinking, I don't want to be trying to bid the last second and have my phone ring or something dumb like that to happen. And I said, is there any way that this could be blocked? They said, there's no way. We have bids that go for way more than this. I contacted eBay and I said, listen, I have bought well over 100 cards. Is there any kind of problem I'm going to be able to have with me making a very large bid? No, you're up to date. You've never had a problem selling but buying before. So I'm just saying that, like, I literally went through every possibility of a problem that I could have as I'm figuring out this bid. Okay. I just want to get that out of the way too. So there's no answer for what the top bid could be, right? This is part emotion. And at the same time, I'm looking for the cards that have sold for 20,000, 25,000, 30,000, 35,000, 50,000, 75,000. And I really believe that this is better than all of them. So, but it's also a PSA 1. And we know that there's a top to that. But I also know that this is going to break every record in history. And I have videos of me talking where I was thinking in my mind that I would not be surprised if this went in the mid-20s. And I wanted to beat that. I wanted to win the card. So I'm not, I don't think it really helps me, because there is this much of a chance that this card could ever come back up again. So I don't know if I should get into crazy details, but I'll tell you that I was good. In my mind, I was thinking that it's probably going to go somewhere in the 20s, and I could go somewhere in the 30s to win it. Okay.
To guarantee the win.
To guarantee the win and to beat even a $30,000 bid. Okay. Because I thought that there could be something. Now I was also thinking that there could just be a millionaire that's going to just say 100,000 on this card because they just want the best looking Jackie there is. Right. Mm-hmm. So But in my mind, I was thinking that this, by the way, this is not I always am looking at I'm a hybrid, right? I do think about price a lot when I'm buying cards, but this was a card that I was not going to sell. And it's just such a special version of the card that I wasn't as concerned with the price, because I really felt like someday, if I did have to sell it, there would be another lunatic like me. Okay, for this specific card, because this is a one of one. This is the vintage one of one kind of card. Okay, so that was what my thought was. I started to think in my mind, even though I think that it should go in the mid-20s. And Jeremy, I think Jeremy was like, when he wrote me one of the emails saying like, it could get up to 20,000. In my mind, I was thinking like, I wish that was that price. Okay, I was like, if it's that, I will be jumping up and down and dancing if it goes for like around 20 grand. Okay, but I also started to see day by day that even though I wasn't talking to anybody about this, every social media source starts figuring out this card exists and starts posting it. It gets on Facebook, it gets on Instagram, and my heart is sinking every single time. And by the way, at this point still, I think Jeremy's in on the card, because even though in his mind he was thinking I might be out of it, he didn't tell me until the day of the auction that he was out of it, which was, I appreciate you doing that. It did make me feel a little bit better.
Not only, I think I probably also let you know, not only was I out of it, I never even bid on it. So I wasn't causing you any potential extra expense on it.
Well, I didn't bid on it either, because we all know when you're bidding on an eBay auction, the smartest way to bid on it is a last second bid, right? And the people that don't do that are usually people that don't really have the technology to do it. And one of the reasons why you do that is because you don't want to give somebody the opportunity to think. It can be shilled, right? We have that part too. But when it gets to this price, it's kind of hard to shill. But you don't want somebody to say, wow, maybe I will spend an extra $2,000 for it. I don't want, this is an eBay auction that's closing instantly, and I don't want anyone to think. I want it to be the last second that this bid goes in, right?
Yeah.
So, but should I just get to the point of when the auction's happening? What's your thought?
Yeah. Okay. So before yes, go ahead, finish the story, and then I have some comments, and we'll hear from Leighton as well. I've been seeing a few comments in the chat we'll get to as well. But yeah, there's a lot of people asking, when are we gonna show the darn card? Well, let's get to that. So why don't you go ahead and finish off the story? Take us through the day. Take us through the day of the auction, David.
So the day of the auction, I'm getting up literally at like 2:30 in the morning. All right. I cannot sleep. I'm in my head. My wife thinks I'm so crazy that I'm like going for walks at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm seeing like coyotes now. Like, it is just like a very weird time in my life. And all I'm thinking is it's going to be over very soon, no matter what, if I win it or if I don't. So I end up, I'm thinking about it. I'm talking to a lot of friends who have nothing to do with baseball cards, who are all rooting for me, because I've sold them on this, right? I'm telling them this story, pitching them, explain it to me. By the way, when I had to tell my wife about this, it was like me doing a PowerPoint presentation, okay? Which was very similar to your guys' show yesterday when you were going through it and going through each one and showing her the prices and how this is the face of I appeal. Greg Morris should have bought this card, right? I mean, not Greg Morris, Mike Baker, right? Because this is literally like the definition of what a sticker is about. So, all right. So I'm all ready. I'm actually videotaping it because in my mind, this is like a grail that I'm passing down for my kids. I end up putting it on. I have my family around me. The auction is going. It's counting down. We're like 1 hour to go. I like feel my heart beating through my chest as I'm sitting by the computer. We all finally gather together and we're like, listen, like if it ends and if it's below this number, it means I won, right? So we're watching it. Oh, and by the way, also the day of the auction, there's an amazing Facebook group for Leaf. I have to mention that also. Look that up. There's like a Leaf Facebook group. And there's people that start posting on that for this card with a market watch of the auction, okay? And literally there are, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of comments about the auction, and people are guessing where it's going to go to. Most people are saying in the 20s, 25, 27,000, 30. Some people are just making up numbers. Nobody was saying in the high 20s, but they were all guessing where this card's going to go. And I'm looking at this and I have a pit in my stomach because I'm just like, God, everyone knows about this thing now, which I was hoping they weren't. So as it starts counting down and my family's all around me, it gets to a few seconds. I'm like double checking my snipe. I'm double checking eBay. I'm doing all that. And finally it counts down to 3, 2, 1, and it ends at 27,000. We all start cheering. I literally start to get tears in my eyes. I'm so excited. And then we look at the eBay and it says final price, but it doesn't say I won. And I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, what the hell happened? Like, why is it not showing that I won? And
because you were on your wife's account, maybe.
I don't know, maybe. But I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here. And I start looking, I look at the snipe and it says, it says error. And then I look at eBay and then it says that I had the bid in, but eBay blocked the bid. And I right away, like, depression, being upset. But then, I have an 8-year-old. I have to keep myself like in not to be a crazy person, and I kind of show this as a lesson. Okay, listen, something didn't go right. We're going to live another day. It's going to be okay. I have to be like strong for the fam, right? Not act like a complete lunatic like I already am. So then I literally get in touch with somebody at eBay, and eBay tells me that they apologize. It had nothing to do with the snipe software. It was because it was the largest bid that I've ever bid on a card, and that they had there was no reason for it to get blocked, but their algorithm every once in a while blocks large bids if it's a larger bid than you've ever bid before. And I said, but I called you guys to ask you that question. And they said, there's nothing you could have done on this auction. The only way you could have won this is if you put in a bid earlier in the day, it would have blocked it. And then you would have been able to answer some security questions. And I said, but why didn't you tell me that when I called you the first time to ask if there was going to be an issue? And I told them how much I was going to bid on this card. And they said, because there was nothing blocking you in the system, but we're now just telling you that now that you put in a bid like that, you'll never be blocked again. And I said, thank you very much. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen again. Yeah.
And then a once in a lifetime card. And now it's not in a lifetime.
So there's lots of ways to think about this. Was it devastating? Yes. Am I halfway over it now? Yes. I stayed strong for my family where I didn't go absolutely crazy, but you have to just kind of think it just was not meant to be. That's the only thing you can say about it. Or you can just crawl into a corner and shake. But, that's the only way I can look at it, is just to say, I know everyone tries to make me feel better. Like Jeremy does this also. He's like, there was probably a wrinkle or something on it to make you. I agree, right? There could have been a problem with the card that you weren't able to see in the photo, but it was devastating. But at the same time, now that it's been a few weeks later, I'm halfway over it. Okay. At this point now.
I think I reached out to you after did I not reach out and say, did you get it?
You did. Yeah. And you thought, I think that I had a lot of people that reached out to me.
Well, I wanted to know if you, I reached out to see if you got it, because I didn't know that your bid would have been enough. I didn't know you were going to bid. And that's kind of, so two things. First of all, like, lesson learned for everybody listening here. If you're ever going to, the sad thing is that you put in so much work and heart and soul. I made you throw up one day over this card. Like I know. And David, I went through it with the Joe Jackson, although I went through it for, well, not quite as long, maybe 2 weeks, the length of a premier auction on Fanatics. You went through it for 10 days with PSA on eBay. But I know what it's like pouring, so much energy into coming up with your personal valuation, how much you're willing to pay. And then you have this emotional investment into the card. I know that if I didn't win that Joe Jackson, I would still be regretting it. And I know that you are going to regret it for a while, but it's okay. There are always more cards. You will find another one that you love, maybe not as much, but you will find one that you love. But the even bigger point that I think, to me, is a bigger point, is, and it ties into, pops and comps, the topic of my book, and the comps side of thing. Comps. Oh, look at that. The comps side of things. Nice to see. Thank you for that. Thank you for the support. Anyway, comps are often misleading, incomplete, inaccurate. And while that card did sell at 27,600, it's not a true indicator of what someone's willing to pay on that given day. Someone was willing to pay significantly more. I don't know what your exact bid was. Well, I think I do, but I won't say because you don't want to share the exact number, but it was north of $30,000. You were going to beat a $30,000 bid, which means, everybody, that the comp says 27.6, but the true value of that card on that day was at least $30,100 or whatever that next incremental bid would have been. We don't know what the max bid of the person who was at 27.6. They only had to beat 27.5. So 27.5, the guy who won it for 27.6, you also don't know this, David. His max bid could have been $45,000 and you were blown out of the water anyway. You would have actually driven up the cost on the next time a nice card like that comes along, a beautiful PSA one that's nicer than 4s and 5s. You might have done yourself a long-term favor by not winning, or maybe eBay did. Now I'm stretching for, ways to make you feel better about it. But that's one of the points of comps. And the reason I wrote the book on it is because comps are at best, they're just incomplete. And not only that, you don't know all the facts said. If we weren't having this conversation right now, people would think, oh my God, can you believe it sold for 27.6? Well, guys, can you believe that it was going to sell for over 30 if there wasn't a glitch in the system? There was a willing and able buyer, documented his whole process. So I think that's an interesting angle of it all. Okay. Hold your thoughts, David. Leighton, I want to get you some thoughts out of you on the whole thing here, Leighton, but I also need you to do me a favor, which is hold down the fort here. I need 90 seconds away right now. Okay. Which doesn't usually happen this early in the evening, but it's happening right now. So Leighton, please hold down the fort for me with David. And I'll be right back. Give me 90 seconds. Thank you.
You got it. Take your time. So David, first, I was very impressed with the amount of due diligence and research that you did. You clearly put a lot of thought into it. And it probably won't be much of a solace for you, but you should know, because I've been not in the same spot, but similar. You should feel good that you were smart and that your research, even though you didn't win the card, the next time, if there is a next time, whether it be a Jackie, a Ruth, or something different in your life as far as a card or collectible, I think you'll have that much more confidence to go for it. And so I think you should take that away from it as well.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if I've never been this emotional about a card before, right? And I have been collecting for a long time. I really don't know if it will ever happen again, to be honest with you. This was just that one perfect scenario. There's a lot of other reasons why this card is first of all, it's Jackie Robinson, right? He's a superhero, right? It's unlike any other cards. Even, listen, I would love to someday have a 52 Mantle, right? I'd love to have a Wagner, but I'm never going to, most likely will never have one of those either. But this card, who Jackie Robinson is, he is not just a sports hero. And I know I've written this a couple of different times in chats before, but Jackie Robinson, my 8-year-old just had to choose an American hero. He didn't choose Jackie Robinson, but he had to choose an American hero. And they had a list of 30 different people. The only person that's in sports that was on that list was Jackie Robinson. Okay. He is not just a sports player. He's an American, juggernaut of a human being, right? It just goes way beyond sports. People that don't know about sports, they know him. And I really do feel like that even in the future, he is going to be even more revered. And I think that his cards, there's a lot of cards and a lot of vintage players that are always going to do well. But I think that Jackie is just on a different level. And this card, which we can talk about why some people love the Bowman card versus this card, but this is the card of Jackie. The Leaf card, the people that love the Bowman card, it's usually because you don't have the Leaf card. And if you have both of them, you usually like the Leaf card better. And I know that that's kind of a controversial topic to say, but I believe.
Well, what do you think? I mean, Leighton, you talk to people all the time. I find David's comment there interesting. I kind of agree with it for myself anyway. But here, the thing, David, though, I have this one. I really want the 49 Bowman to pair up with it and to have as well. And it's just run up in value in the last year or so. And it's not super high on my list, but I'd love to pair it up. But Leighton, what about you? You talk to people all the time, I'm sure, that are looking to pick up one of the jackies. Is that sort of a standard position that you've seen along the way?
I think it's shifted a little bit, not to throw some fuel on the fire, but, with the book coming out and some people recognizing that it is, issued in 1949. I do think, though, that generally the Leaf has been much more expensive for a long time. However, as a baseball card nerd and enthusiast myself, I like the way they pair together, like a fine wine pairing with a meal, right? So I can certainly appreciate that. I do have to run in a few, so I just wanted to reflect on at least one of the things that we had some fun discussing on the Vintage Spotlight. But David, you alluded to it just a little bit ago, and it's just a fascinating topic because the research that you put in is similar to some of the things that I do, whether it be for a card or a piece of memorabilia that I'll be bidding on an auction that I plan to own for a while. You really have to think out of the box. And, kudos to you. Like I said, you didn't pick it up, but I do think this experience that you've gone through will put you in a better position, at the very least, just for life. Maybe not in the hobby. But I think that what we're seeing in eye appeal, as Jeremy likes to refer to as eye appeal is winning, is that's what's happening. Like, don't be wrong, there's still someone that wants that $1 million 9 or $10 million SGC 9 or whatever you're referring to. But how cool is that, as us collectors who maybe don't have that, we could buy a card in our estimation through our hard work and our research and actually seeing these images being sold over years, that you could afford something, or at least be in the vicinity of something that means a lot to you. And so, we'll see what happens in the future with other 48 Leafs. I wanted to leave you with this because I didn't get a chance to show this the other day. I wish it was something better right up your alley, David, because I, of course, would make you a deal on it. But there's a guy that I can't say who it is, but I was referred to him. He's a very well-known gentleman, getting up there in age. And he didn't need the money, but he wanted to see his baseball cards not be thrown in the trash when he's left the earth. And he pasted these cards in a scrapbook when he got them as a kid. So without further ado, here's one of the very few cards I bought. And it's certainly not nearly as pretty as the PSA one you were bidding on. But here's the 48 Leaf Jackie that's fresh to the hobby. It's got good eye appeal from the front. Certainly not the same as the other one you were bidding on, but then how sad is this?
Boy.
It was in a binder, or in a scrapbook. He doesn't even remember taking it out. He said he's very grateful that he still had it and wanted to make sure it didn't get tossed in the dump. He's got an interesting attitude about life, but that I wanted to show you. I know it's not the same quality, but I would be remiss if I didn't show it to you before I left.
I love messed up backs. That is my favorite kind of card. I love the front looking great and the back is a mess. Give me that all day long. So that's a beautiful card.
Well, I enjoyed, hearing your story, even though it was not a story of a win. You still had me glued to the edge of my seat, man. So thank you.
I appreciate that. No problem.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you, Leighton.
Yeah,
thanks,
nice seeing you
Leighton.
too, David.
All right, Leighton.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'll talk to you guys real soon.
All right, buddy. Take care, man.
Take care.
Thank you, Leighton. Just collect. David, yeah, it's, there's a lot of people sad for you that didn't know the results of this. I think the people that we were hanging out with during the West Coast Card Show and knew you were interested in the card, knew that you didn't end up with it. So when people were asking earlier, are we going to see the card? I'm like, well, no, we're not going to see the card, actually. We should be seeing the card, but we're not going to see the card.
I also want to put one more wrinkle into this story, which is kind of interesting, just about why this card is also cool. So as you know, I like to get the lowest grade, highest eye appeal cards. I really think that everyone that's been collecting for a while, not everyone, but a large percentage of people, grading is a complete joke these days. And I know that Teapot's video is kind of a big topic of conversation right now, where he submitted a Ken Griffey Jr. 89 upper deck 7 times to different grading companies, and then did it again. And it came back anywhere from an SGC 9 to altered. And it's just, when you've been in this hobby long enough, the grading companies are just so frustrating in every way. And I mean, I have a list of 100 reasons of why they're frustrating. And to me, this was also a big middle finger to PSA, to have it be a 1 and for it to be such an important card and a nice looking card and an expensive card, even though they're grading it low. I kind of like that, I kind of like that it was, I liked it that it was a 1 better than a 1.5 or a 2. Like I liked it that it was the lowest level above authentic, I think that's cool.
Listen, again, eye appeal is winning. It's making moves overall. Collectors, as Dan's Vintage said, collectors may not be winning, but eye appeal is, we have to spend more, but you can still there's still opportunities. Not all sellers of cards believe in eye appeal. Not all sellers of cards have put down that Kool-Aid yet. Many haven't. And I found myself, not nearly of the same magnitude, but my beautiful Bart Starr came from the West Coast Card Show, $100, PSA 6, looks nicer than most 8s I see of that card, even 9s, because it's a tough centering. So it definitely happens, and there's still opportunities. But yeah, let's do some comments from the chat, David. We got Josh Adams in the back. We're going to bring him on in just a couple of minutes. Hi, Josh. I see you there, buddy. We're going to be, yeah. So, okay. First of all, I want to go to Michael Rader here. This is going back to, I love game use memorabilia cards, especially vintage players. So do I, Michael Rader. David Cooey says, so they say card collectors are bad at relationships because they treat their partner like a common card and look for a rare one. Mike Petty says, we all talked about it as the auction was going. Didn't know David was interested. He didn't share the info, kept his cards close to his chest. Orlando said the colors on that Jackie are so bright that looks like it was stapled in a book right out of the pack with no light. It does look that good. I didn't save these comments, but I think Orlando says, can we just start calling it 49 Leaf since it's from 49? And I have Brian Cappell's book, Relief, great book. It's that book right there. It's like calling Honus Wagner Honus or Johan, or like the 48 Leaf card calls him John. I remember even about a year ago, so I said I'm going to start calling him Honus. I didn't. I'm back to Honus. I don't know. It seems to me it's one of those things that is the Relief book and our YouTube community going to be able to grow to a critical mass such that the hobby does start calling it 49 Leaf? I think the answer is no, unfortunately. I don't think it's going to happen, guys, until PSA changes what they put on the labels, or SGC, or Beckett if they still grade that card. Anybody. I until that happens, I don't see it changing widely. So but go ahead, please.
I 100% agree with you, and I think it's. And I apologize to the YouTubers out there that correct people every time they say 49 Leaf. But to me, that's a little bit like scratching a chalkboard every time it's discussed. It is not known as 49 Leaf. I get it. It came out in 49. Okay. We all understand that we read the book. But at the same time, if you ever look up one of these cards and if you look at it on any auction house or you talk about it, it is always going to be the 48 Leaf set. Or 48, 49 Leaf set possibly. But to try to change the wording, it does not flow. Anytime you say 49 Leaf, it's kind of like 49. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get it. Right. Every single time it's spoken about, which I know that I don't mean to. I know that there's even some YouTubers that were saying, like, my pet peeve is people that call it 48 Leaf. Well, I think you're going to be annoyed for a long period of time. Yeah.
I think I agree. I think the people who are lobbying for the name change, in a widespread way, are going to be continuing to lobby for that. So But let's go to some more comments. And then we're going to bring Josh and guys, guess what? Joe Poirot is back in the green room. We're going to bring those guys on in just a couple of minutes. David Chase, you're welcome to stick around. I'm going to run through a bunch of comments here, though, first, if I may. And I like this comment from Fresh Prince of Sports Cards. Now, this is already half an hour ago, but he said, that card is so nice, you call it Mr. Robinson instead of a Jackie. That was a good comment. Greg says, sometimes my wife calls me the blue blob, which I thought I was reading a Bob Boozle comment right there, to be honest. Mookie says, or Petty says, Mookie, are you drinking for your birthday? You're on fire tonight. Mookie, happy birthday, if it is your birthday. American Dream album, we now knows what card we are speaking of. Chris C says, I appeal is expensive, but then again, so is anything that is great in the hobby. Right. BWS says, a reverse shill when eBay stops your bid from getting through. Trees and cardboard. Now Jeremy needs to throw up. That must have been when I had to leave the room for a moment. Tony says that CIA auctions would never do this to somebody, stopping them from bidding. Situational says Leighton and Jay Lee need to give David a hug. I'm sure I gave you a hug at the West Coast Card Show, David. I must have done that.
You did.
Look at Theo. Theo, who Clemente collector, works at CIA Auction, says this story ruined my night. By the way, CIA Auctions, March auction is in preview. CollectorInvestorAuctions.com runs March 5th to 15th. Chris says, David, you deserve that card. eBay should have no right to do that. Well, they do. And you know what? I like the comment, Chris, but they do have the right, because I'm sure they have that written into their terms and conditions somewhere that we have the right to do these things. But I agree. I still agree with Chris C. They shouldn't. Wow. It's hard. Yeah, it sucks. I'll just leave it at that. Perimeter says same thing I said before. Perhaps the winner had a max above 30 and perhaps above your. That's where I'd be hanging my hat right now, David, emotionally, if I were you. Is I might not.
I think about that too. It helps me sleep at night. I do. Well,
Petty says you have your 30K still. I'd be happy. Well, the problem with that, Petty, and you should know this. We like cards more than cash, brother. We like cards more than cash, right? But Vintage Oddball Rick says buy the Bowman and save a few bucks. Well, you collect 48 Leaf, 49 Leaf. You collect the Leaf set. The one nice thing about that Leaf set is that there's no other Leaf sets. So, he's got the pair still, guys. He's still sitting pretty.
I love my Jackie. You know that.
Greg says, David, I so appreciate you sharing this story, and Jeremy for the platform. This was super gripping content and truly incredible. Thank you, Greg. Midlife Greg, everybody. Chris from Missouri says, you guys are great together. We just started dating. This is new. We just met. It was like love at first sight between me and David.
Jeremy and I knew we were getting together. We had our first phone call. And we're like, we're like best friends now.
Yeah, right? Best friend. Vintage says that grading is technical, not based on eye appeal. Why are we upset about that? It's the opposite, Vintage. I'm thrilled by it because I can buy cards that are superior for cheaper prices. Not upset about it at all. I might be critical, but I'm not upset by it. I think it's such a great value ability. Chris says, David Chase, you will get an even better copy of that, Jackie. I'm convinced of it. I wish you the best. Very nice, Chris C. Jeff says, met David at today's show, promised a good story and delivered, which we did. Dan says, the truth about 49 Leaf is important. PSA labels make plenty of mistakes. Yes, but sure they do. And I don't know if Dan means that, you can send in 100 Ken Griffey Jr. 89 Upper Deck rookies, and one of them might say 1990 Upper Deck by mistake. This is more than just PSA labels making plenty of mistakes. This is not this is PSA's identification team, research team, not only coming up with what although Jeff's card journey disagrees, he says it's 48 Leaf, but just for now, not only did PSA's research and identification team at the beginning of time of their era or their existence decide that it was 48 Leaf, they've had 35 years since then to change their tune on that, and they still have not. So this is more than just PSA labels making plenty of mistakes. This is a deliberate decision not to change what they call it based on the evidence that has been presented in Brian Kappel's book Relief. So it's a bit different, Dan, but Dan is also correct. PSA labels make plenty of mistakes, spelling, mislabeling the card, not knowing refractors from non. I think it's a low error rate overall, but they make mistakes for sure. Jeff's card journey says it's 48 Leaf. let's get your final thought on that, David, and some final thoughts these probably won't be final thoughts. We're going to bring Josh and Joe on in just a moment, and I'm sure we'll revisit some of this. But what do you think?
If you don't mind, I can go off a little bit about the Bowman versus Leaf for a second, or should I go about something else? You tell me.
No, I'm already 10 minutes behind bringing Josh and Joe on. No, I want you to talk about it, but let me bring them on for that. Okay. And I want to also, because I am so grateful for the sponsors that enable me to continue to do this. I want to shout out Mint Inc. Everybody. Mint Inc. delivers the ultimate hobby experience, from live whatnot streams and auctions to grading breaks, and 2 full retail stores in the greater Toronto area. They do it all. They're buying collections 7 days a week. Click the link in the description below. Use promo code SCL5 for 5% off your first purchase. Shop online anytime with worldwide shipping. Mint Inc., where collecting comes to life. And we're going to do Mr. Minty as well, everybody. We're going to do Mr. Minty as well. I actually today opened up my Mr. Minty submission kit. I'm going to show you what's in here. Let me read you what I want to say about Mr. Minty. First, grading is expensive, ties up your time, your money, your assets. Get it right with Mr. Minty. They offer a full line of 100% substance-free pre-grading supplies, grade preparation and evaluation services, and concierge drop-off and pickup for PSA submissions. Hopefully, they're not going to make mistakes on your labels. All designed to help collectors save time and money in the expensive grading process. And you can meet Mr. Minty in person at basically any major card show in the US. And he even comes up to the expo in Canada. And really quick, David, I want to show you guys what comes in this, because I was really impressed when I opened this kit up, you guys. But you get these, you get the semi-rigids, 100 of those. You get some sleeves. So you're getting the basics, some sleeves. Another pack of semi-rigids. You also get the grading tool, and it comes in a sleeve. It's a nice grading tool, and you get a package of the microfiber cloths. A nice pack of microfiber cloths come in there as well. And my favorite part of the whole package is the loop, the Mr. Minty branded loop. And this will be my new go-to, because my current go-to is I've just used it so much that the flashlight doesn't work. This one, guys, actually has the flashlight. I'm going to show it to you. And I want to thank Steve and Mr. Minty, but check this out. This might be really bright, but look at that. 2 flash. Look at that. So this is awesome for assessing your cards. Mr. Minty, as he always says, and keep it minty. So thank you to Mr. Minty for supporting the show. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to bring Josh and Joe on. We're going to say hello, and then David, you're going to continue, and then we'll get their comments after. Does that sound good to you, my friend?
Oh, of course. Sounds great.
All right. Let's bring on Josh Adams, everybody. Joshua Adams, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
Hi, David. Nice to meet you.
Hey,
I love your
Josh.
work
Nice
on The
to meet you.
Sopranos.
Oh, thank you very much. People don't comment about that anymore, but like 10 years ago, everyone spoke about that with me.
What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, Josh. Nice to see you. You took last week off, and Hoge is a no-show again tonight. He's still under the weather, but we have a substitute. We have Mr. Joe Poirot.
Oh, even better.
Coming back on. Joe, I hope you had a nice hour break from this live stream. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. You'll be happy to know I got a walk-in, and I got a little pizza here just out of the oven, so I'm in good shape. And David,
you obviously met David. We had dinner together, saw him at the show, but this is your first time hearing that story. And Josh, to the extent you did too, let's get your reaction to David's story and situation. Then we'll get Josh's, and then we'll get David. We might do some comments, and then we'll get David to continue talking about Jackie and Leaf versus Bowman, because why not? It's interesting stuff.
right. Well, first of all, David, it's good to see you. And I wish I'd had a little more time to directly connect with you down there in Ontario. We were sitting at like a Viking medieval table, and there were maybe 20 people between us. I saw you down there by Petty, but anyway, and at various moments, saw you engaging in the card show. So wonderful to see you, and welcome to Sports Cards Live. As far as the story goes, I don't know, the part that captured me the most was the part of the story where you were cataloging all the different images to sort of keep track, if you will, of the versions that were out there, which I go through that. I don't actually download them, but I go through that process sometimes when I'm getting the gumption up to, bid over comps and do the thing that like already makes sense in your mind, but you need a little material like support and data to firm up your conviction that this is the right thing to do. And so I've gone through that process a couple times, and that's, the proof is in the pudding. Like when you put the images up next to each other and you start kind of sorting them and thinking like, it's like when you go to the optometrist and they're like A or B, 1 or 2, this or that. And if the answer keeps being the one that is, happens to be the lower grade card from a technical standpoint, then, that's the prescription that the doc's going to dial you up. And so I that's the part of the story I really liked.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. And thank you for welcoming him. That was very, very sweet. Josh, did you hear the whole David Chase story on the Jackie or?
I missed it.
Okay. Well, what do you think
Can
of
I
it?
start over?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what happened.
Well, you can, okay, let's go back to you, David, for a moment then. And, but I'll quickly fill Josh in. He was bidding on the PSA 1 Jackie 48 Leaf that looked like an 8. Spent a week researching it, and a glitch in the system didn't allow him to purchase it. David, back to you now, because you were going to start talking a bit about the 48 Leaf, the Leaf versus the Bowman, not about what the label is or it should or should not be, more about the two cards as a comparison of each other. I think it's an interesting conversation. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Both cards are amazing cards. There's no doubt about that, but over to you. What were you thinking about that?
So first of all, the 49 Bowman set is literally like maybe my second favorite set of all time. Okay. So I am not downplaying that set. I really, really love that set too. Okay. But we have to be realist about what Bowman really is. Okay. And as sad as it is, Bowman is a second class company compared to Topps. And in my opinion, also compared to Leaf. And if you literally look at every single Bowman card that came out the same year as Topps, I think of two, and this is off the top of my head because I'm a crazy person, I think of this. I think of two cards that are Bowman that are probably more value than the Topps card of the same year, which is the Pee Wee Reese, because that's an iconic, crazy card of him jumping, right? That 53 Bowman Reese. And I think probably the 54 Bowman Ted Williams, because that's that short print card that they had to stop making. Other than that, if you take a look at 52, 53, 54, and 55 of the same player, I cannot think of a Bowman card that's worth more than Topps. And the same thing goes with Leaf versus Bowman, okay? Leaf, to me, is a more iconic set. And even if they're the same year, the Leaf card is, to me, the rookie that is in a higher demand. And by the way, I'm a flight collector, right, Jeremy? Flight collecting, Joe Poirot, right? I love Bowman's, okay? I have my flight is Campy, Page, Dobes, as Petty would say, Doobie, and oh, that's a Doobie too. I have two of Doobies, actually. I like Doobie so much. So I love that set, okay? But at the same time, it's not Leaf. Leaf is the greatest set of all time, all right? And that I completely understand that it's a cheaper way to get a Jackie rookie, and that is not knocking it. I love that card, okay? That is one of my favorite cards in my collection too, but it's just not the Leaf Jackie.
You said, David, there that you can't think of a single Bowman card that's worth more than a Topps card, where I think the way you put that. And I got hung up on the when you said worth more, because a lot of us don't care if it's worth more or not. We care about what we like more. Could you sub in? I can't think of a Bowman card that I like more than a Topps card in that era when you listed off, I think 50 to 54 or whatever. Would that be true too? Or was that just about value when you were speaking it?
You know, I love Bowman. And what made me love Bowman is because I'm a little bit of somebody that, not an arguer, but a debater, you know, and my dad loves Topps. Okay. So for me, I saw a lot of Topps cards always growing up, and I didn't really see very much of the Bowman. So when I got back into collecting, Bowman became a love of mine. Okay. So I love a lot of the 49 Bowman cards. I love a lot of the 53 Bowman cards. I love the 50s and 51s too. You know, I have a maze, right? I don't have the mantle of the 51 Bowman. I have all of the mantles after 51 of the Bowman cards. And I love those cards too. Okay. And that 52 Topps Bowman mantle is like a crazy card, but it's not the 52 Topps mantle, right? And I love the 53 Bowman mantle too, but that 53 Topps mantle is pretty special, right? Yeah. And there isn't a Topps 54 and there isn't a Topps 55. So fine, Bowman wins of the mantles of those 2 years. But it's very tough to compare year to year.
That's a win by default. Like when you were, back when you were in little kid soccer and the other team didn't show up, you won by default. Yeah, I think what you just said was very controversial. We're seeing some of that in the chat right now. We'll get to some of that, but you are well entitled to your opinion on these things. And that's one of the beauties of the hobby. Absolutely. So I'm going to go to comments, and then unless Joe, I can't tell if you want to jump in right now. If you do.
I just want to make one point, and the only point I'm going to make is that, like, yeah, I'd like a 48 leaf Satchel Paige and a 48 leaf Larry Doby, but those cards are so far out. So the 49 Bowmans become a shoehorn, a proxy into that for some of us, not Herculean collectors.
And, David also alluded to it when he said what he said, which, you look at Mantle. It's so true in some cases, David, that even Mantle's second year card in Topps outperforms his one and only true rookie in Bowman, and by a long shot. So,
and I was really just underscoring what David was saying. It's like that it parallel to the Jackie as well. It's like, yeah, most of us, or if you're being honest with yourself, you're probably going to like that Leaf Jackie better. But sometimes the Bowman is the consolation prize. It was the consolation prize for me in Ontario. So,
absolutely.
And what a consolation prize! Like, right, one of the greatest cards in history, right?
No diminishment whatsoever. That's
yeah.
Right.
All right, couple comments here, and then we're gonna get. I want to go through the comments because I think Josh will fire up once we go through these comments. Okay, Perimeter. No, sorry. Clemente says PSA standard is a pinhole has to be a grade of 1 maximum. I believe that to be the case, Theo. I'm sure the chat has opined. Goes on to say Topps releases products 3 years late. So what's the difference on what it's called? Vintage Card Collector says the 48-49 Leaf discussion is beyond boring at this point. Hobby Champ says we don't call 23 for the Cup 24-25 because that's when it was released. And that's a really interesting comment there, I think, also because just because the Leaf set was apparently released in 1949 doesn't mean that that's when they wanted to release it or that that's the baseball year that they wanted it to affiliate to. I'm not saying, I could be totally wrong on that. It might still be, but just because it came out then, I mean, even look, think about Topps and O-Pee-Chee hockey through the 70s and 80s. The top set came out, and in hockey, it goes, there's two years are quoted for the year of the set. It's like 79-80, 80-81. PSA doesn't do that, but that's the way it is really is. So Topps hockey came out in Q4 of the year, and O-Pee-Chee came out Jan 1 of the next year. So the Gretzky year, for example, the 79-80 Topps and O-Pee-Chee set, the Gretzky Topps card came out in 1979. The O-Pee-Chee card, Jan 1, 1980. So does it really matter when it came out, or does it matter what season of the sport they wanted it to be? And now what I don't know, because I haven't memorized Brian Cappell's book, is if the 48 Leaf set, also known as 49 Leaf set, was put out for the 48 year or the 49 year. Okay, Josh, hold your thought on that. We'll get to it, okay? Vintage Oddball says grading companies need to correct the label when new info is verified. So many sets have the wrong year. I agree. Dan says PSA research team, the set came out in March of 49. It's absolutely a deliberate decision. They are factually wrong. So you're questioning the quality of the research team at PSA. Ken Wood says, thanks for sharing the story, David, and thanks, Jeremy, for having David on. Incredible story, and I now want to find me some good eye appeal Jackie Robinsons. I like Yankees fan comment. 48-49 is the new 6'7". Most of you should know what that is. If you have little kids like I do, you definitely know what 6'7" is. And I love to make my kids embarrassed with that. Chris C says, but you're using worth only as the ultimate determinator. And also some consider 47 Bond bred to be the rookie. I brought up that same topic. So we're on the same page there, Chris, but we did address that. Dan says, Bowman produced the greatest set ever released. Calling them second rate is just complete nonsense. So that's some of the controversy that you brought up there, David. Petty says, I always hated Bowman growing up, never considered them real cards. So he also considered them second rate. And Dan basically says everyone is entitled to their opinion regarding regarding how wrong it might be. He goes on to say, Jeremy's right. Everyone is entitled to their own bad opinion. And Dan, you're not immune from bad opinions yourself, I'm sure, as I am not either, and probably nobody is. And BW says, I've never owned a Bowman. I need to get one. Well, there are some awesome Bowman cards in my collection. I love them. David showed some that he loves. Joe's picked some up. Now, let's hear from Josh on this whole topic, please. Josh Adams, everybody.
It's a 49 leaf set. Dan stole my thunder because it came out in March, and all the set is from 48, and it's from, like I said, it's Ruth tribute card who died in August of that year. So it had to come out after August, after he died. So it's a 49 leaves. But whatever, it's the best set ever made, so that's all that matters.
That's really all that matters, right? Like we're literally talking about a label, a name for it. You know what? The reason it matters is because of the rookie card status, the RC status on the Bowman copy. I think the reason it matters is because people want to see the 49 Bowman receive the rookie card designation, which is really interesting because I always considered, for whatever reason, I don't even know why this is, but I wonder if any other people out there have the same mindset. But I've always been of the understanding that the 49 Bowman is also his rookie card, even though it's labeled a year later than the 48 Leaf card. So that's kind of where I go to on that one. That's been it is important because of the Bowman card, not so much because of the Leaf card. Does that make sense? Am I on an island there? Or Josh, no, David?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I
don't care about rookie cards. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you don't even. So you've never considered the 49 Bowman to be a Jackie Robinson rookie, or you just never thought about it?
I have never once thought about it in my life.
Fair. Okay.
I collect the 49 leaf short prints, so I don't really deal with the first issues.
Fair enough. Okay. All that said, David, do you have a response to the discussion?
No, and you know what? I love, by the way, Dan's opinion on this because I like that people have different opinions as me. Okay. I don't need everybody to have the same opinion on every subject in baseball cards. Okay. This is fun. Okay. I think that we like a lot of these channels these days, they get like up in arms. I mean, listen, I love Greg, and like some reaction videos about Greg's midlife cards videos is just mind-boggling to me. Okay. He's like literally like Mr. Rogers, like the nicest, sweetest man in history. And it's just funny to me how some people like get up in arms over these toys that we're playing with. And I love these toys. Okay. They are a big part of me, but it's okay for us to have different opinions and for me to say a dumb thing about Bowman versus Leaf and things like that. And if everyone agreed on the same thing, content would be so boring. Okay. So I like it. I like people having different opinions as me, and I'll be opinionated and obnoxious to everybody too.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what makes the world go around, right? And sometimes I think we want to see the world slow down a little bit, but I think we're talking about, people sharing their opinions. I think one of the things that people get triggered about is when an opinion is shared with a tone as if it's a fact. And that happens way too much in our world. People, oh, that movie sucked. Oh, that restaurant is bad. Well, somebody likes it. Somebody liked that movie. Oh, think about Nickelback. Here's a good one, right? Everyone, people love, it's trendy to say that Nickelback sucks, right? Some people love Nickelback music. Some do. So, I mean,
I knew you were a Nickelback fan, Jeremy. I like
a couple of their old songs. I don't really care enough, right? And they're actually, they're not far from, they're from not far where I live, but I don't care too much about Nickelback. But when they came out, some of their songs were pretty good. But the point is that it's almost cool to hate on certain things, right? It's like, oh, everyone, I'm just not going to use my own brain. I'm going to hate on it because everyone else does without even really listening or thinking about it. And then a lot of people share it's like, you project your filter, your lens, your theory upon other people. We do that. It's human nature to project how we feel about things onto others. And it's just not the way it works in life. We do have different opinions. We're entitled to our different opinions on things. As Dan said, even if they're wrong, well, they're just wrong in Dan's opinion. But, Dan, who earlier said that that him and Josh rely on evidence, well, then he would know that his comment was as nonsensical as your comment was to him, as his would be nonsensical to other people. Because one opinion, you cannot base these things on fact. You cannot base an opinion on a card on fact. You just cannot. Josh.
What Dan said, though, was factually accurate. It wasn't an opinion. It was factually accurate.
What?
Cards came out in March 1949.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Never mind. Sorry. Continue.
No, it's okay.
Right.
There's there are welcome to the show, Josh. Okay, we can wrap that up. But again, the point is, as David was saying, yes, it's fun to have different opinions in here. And the other thing is that sometimes someone else's opinion can become one that you're like, hey, that opinion is better than my opinion is. I like that theory on the way that thing exists or works better than my own. Maybe there's some new information there that I didn't consider before. Oh, okay. I don't care, but I believe that the 48 Bowman should properly be called 49. Do I care enough to start calling it that and change how I discuss it and confuse 90% of people out there when I call it? Wait, what do you mean 49? There's no such thing. Well, there is. Oh, but PSA says, okay. So then the conversation's over because they're not going to believe me. They're going to believe PSA. So anyway, Joe, any thoughts from you on the whole topic?
I mean, I think I agree with Josh in the sense that, like, maybe for different reasons, like it's not that I don't care, but I just sort of calibrate the data I have into the equation of which card in any given moment I'm interested in. And in terms of like other people and like what they think, when people get a little, fired up about certain things, like I think that just shows that we care. And that's a good thing, that we care, and hopefully we can be civil. Hopefully we can be respectful and show some positive regard for our fellow collectors. But it's when people get fired up and in all different contexts, I just say, that's just a sign that we actually care.
We do. We care so much. We love this. We love this stuff. We love everything about it. Even the clashing opinions. It's just fun. I have another topic to introduce that David Chase brought to me the other day. David, are you good to continue? Because
I'm in.
Okay. So first, Yankees fan says, as if anyone's opinion means anything in the grand scheme of things is hilarious. Could not agree more. Mookie says opinions are like pinholes. Everybody has one. I may have that wrong. That's right. You may, but you may not have that wrong. Also, okay. So the other topic was, and this was something that David brought. I want to get everybody's thoughts, the chat as well. And I'll let you actually introduce, because this is one of your theories, David. It has to do with, I might give it away here. Whatever is modern when you started collecting leads you down your ultimate path in the hobby. Can you put that in your own words? And then we'll go around and get everybody's thoughts.
These are some of the crazy things that go through my head when I am married to somebody that does not care about cards and my son does not care about cards. And I ruminate about these kind of things at all times. So, when somebody usually gets into card collecting, I think that they usually are looking at modern for their era, their time that they are looking at cards. That could mean that a baby boomer who starts in the 50s are looking at 50s cards. And somebody that is in the hobby now is looking at today's cards. And I think that's really how you get started in the hobby. And then I think you progress. And sometimes you don't progress to different levels. You sometimes stay there. But I think that there is a progression that you move on, which would usually go from like modern to your era, then to iconic cards of that era. And then from there, you go to iconic cards in general. And then I think that eye appeal starts to get into your brain. And then from there, I think that there's a couple of different ways you go. I think that some people go towards, vintage. And then also from there, they go to pre-war or oddball. And I think that you have to kind of, if you ever, people are going to oddball or pre-war, you have to follow that path to get there. And I think that not everybody gets there because they stop at some of the other places and they don't feel like they need to move down the row. And I think that there's a lot of content that's about oddball and pre-war, where I think that there's a lot of vintage collectors that are not there yet, right? And maybe we'll never get there. And I think that it's just that progression is something that is an interesting thing to think about. But I think it's not very often that somebody goes from modern to pre-war. I think that there is a path to get there. That's kind of what my thought is.
Not directly, there is a path or steps in between is I think what you're saying there. Yeah.
Correct.
I think it's so two things, David. First of all, what you just did was, this ties into our previous discussion, but it's a bit of a, I wonder, are you basing the way you think how people's journeys go? Are you basing on your own journey, or are you basing on your own journey and also have you witnessed other people, your general feel from talking to people out there? And I'm asking because I was just talking about projecting, and yeah. I'm wondering very innocently if you are projecting that that's how people do it, or if you've actually thought about it and seen other people go that way, talking to your collecting friends and buddies over the decades.
Not over the decades. Okay. This is just like literally, I probably have had 3 minutes of conversation about this topic. Okay. So I am projecting. But it's my thought. And I know that we're crazy about this, but here's kind of why I get there. Okay. I was talking to you, Jeremy, and this is why my thought got there, how you and I are both not in pre-war as much as some people would think, right? Like we are not into the T206s. I like them and I have a few, but it's not my ultimate passion at this point. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean I'm not going to get there, but I have stopped at the place before that, which is the vintage or iconic vintage where I'm still at. And I just, I don't feel the passion for it. And I just feel like it's because I'm not at that path to get there yet. And I do think that there's a lot of people who, it is me just completely just in my mind thinking of reasons why I cannot fall in love with pre-war as much as I want to. That's kind of my thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never owned a T206 card. I covet. I do have an American Caramel 1909 or 1910. And I have several pre-war vintage hockey cards, like, the early ones, but I haven't ventured into the T206s. Oh, and I have the Cracker Jack, of course. I think that's considered a pre-war card. And it depends. Are we talking about First World War or second? I feel like we're talking about First World War here, not second, because I love my pre-Second World War cards, which I think is what we refer to when we talk about pre-war mostly. But no, I appreciate you thinking that through. And I think you're not the only person that holds that theory on the path that people take along their collecting journey, that you start with what was modern when you started. And a couple comments came through that kind of iterate that a little. Like Fresh Prince says, it's natural to go back and get the cards you always wanted whenever you first started collecting. And I'll add to Fresh Prince's statement here, which is, especially when you have the money to do so. It's like, you hear people say that all the time on content. once I made money, I went back and bought all the cards I couldn't afford when I was younger. And I think that that's a great way to approach it. So let's hear the other guys. Josh, what do you think on this kind of thing? Did that work? Do you notice this too? Did it work out that way I mean, you're still chasing cards from when you were younger, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I was younger in the 30s. No, I'm just kidding. I was, I did like stuff when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. I went to vintage, and I still do vintage and pre-war and 90s stuff. I don't do modern stuff, but so I mean, David's like spot on. I do T206 is a great, Jeremy. You should get into those, especially like the tough rear backs. They're great. So,
well,
it's addicting.
I do want to own at least a Ty Cobb, maybe a couple of others. Seeing the cards that Joe bought from Petty at West Coast Card Show, I'm like, oh man, those are just beautiful. They're museum pieces.
I bought a cool one last week. I'll show it to you later.
All right, cool. Thank you. Joe, let's hear your thoughts on this whole journey discussion that David introduced.
Yeah, well, I think the only real vista I have is my own. And, my first sort of pack pulled cards were like 76. And yet, like, waiting in line for the school bus, some kids had 75s and 73s even. And so those got traded a little bit. So like, even just going back a little bit. But then I was lucky enough to have a very sophisticated card shop. I grew up in Berkeley, California, and there was this shop called King's. And so by the time I was like, 12 years old, I was already seeing, vintage cards of pretty high levels. So it didn't take long because I was a baseball kid. I studied statistics. I looked at, the red books. I was into trivia, into really just the history of the game. And so, you look and you see like hits leaders, you look and you see like, not just home run leaders, but like walk leaders or, all the different stats. I mean, that's what makes baseball so great. And so it was pretty quick for me, I would say, like to have that fascination with the past. Like by the time I think I ripped packs for 2 years, and then I was going to shows like 76, 77. And then I was going to shows and looking for, Clemente rookie cards or Aaron rookie cards. So that I might've had a very accelerated experience, but all that said, I still hold like the sweetest part in my heart for those 76, 77s, the 75 minis, I love to see those. Those are very compelling to me still. So that's the part that resonates for me, is like, there's always a home there.
You know what, when I think about my journey and why I got into vintage in the first place, collecting the base sets through the 80s and spending Saturday afternoon after Saturday afternoon at the LCS, taking the bus, when I was in grade 3, 4, or 5, me and my one buddy would take the bus to the LCS in elementary school, like pre-junior high even. And I remember being at these stores, there was 2 of them, and looking in the showcase, like that was my Instagram at the time, was actually standing in a shop. Many of us, right? You go to the shop, you look at the cards, and that's where I learned about what existed. There was no Beckett magazine. There was nowhere to look. You had to see them in person to see cards. And I remember when I got into vintage, for me, it really started with the Bobby Hull 1958 Topps rookie card, because I'd go to Joe Day, and this is now later on. This is into the late 80s now. I'm about to graduate high school, and I'm seeing this card. He had 2 of them in his showcase for a while, priced in the hundreds, big money back then. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And then I'd look into his other showcase, and I'd see the Bobby Clark rookie, and the Darryl Sittler, and the Guy Lafleur, and the Ken Dryden, and the Marcel Dion, like all these players that you knew about, Hall of Famers, maybe not yet at the time, but soon to be Hall of Famers back then. And that's how I developed my first real want list of cards that were older, that came out before I was collecting, right, David? Because I'm sitting there buying all these cards coming out the year they're coming out when I'm a kid. Now I get older, I make some money. What do? eBay comes around. I'm now looking for these cards. I remember the first time I saw a graded card on eBay. I think it was a BGS graded something or other, and thinking to myself, oh my gosh. And it was so much more expensive than it was raw because even in a whatever, a 9, 9, 5, 10, because there were so few graded cards back then. So they were already selling for premiums. Like, oh my gosh, this is what it's going to turn into now. Point being that I followed the path that you explained, David. Started with what I collected, but it didn't take me long to go back in time. That one Bobby Hall card triggered me now. Oh, I'm going to collect every 1,000-point man in NHL history. And then it then morphed into Hall of Famers across all sports. And that's what I focused on for 20 years. Hall of Famers, maybe more. Hall of Famers, all sports. And unfortunately, I don't own all those cards anymore. But I still have some beauties and couldn't be happy with where the collection's at. But again, that was my journey tied in. You projected your projection, your thoughts, your journey on your theory on that, David, it does apply to me. And I think it applies to a lot of people. So good stuff there. All right, guys, what's on any of your minds right now? I'm gonna scour the comments, look for a few from the last few minutes here. But David, I'll go to you. Anything else on your mind when it comes to the Leafs? That we had one funny comment when we were chatting, and you talked about collecting the flight of 48 Leaf cards. And then you're like, yeah, but Jeremy, I'm collecting all the Hall of Famers. That's more than that flight. I'm like, well, no, that's just the flight path that you're on or something like that.
Yeah,
was that it's always fun playing with words, right? But yeah, what is your, because I thought you were doing the 48 Leaf set, but you're not. So what are you doing and what else are you collecting right now?
I'm not a a set collector, right? I'm somebody who, when you and Joe brought up flight collecting a few months ago, it resonated with me more than anyone's ever brought up a topic. Okay. And because that's literally what I do. And the only thing that I go against that is this Leaf set, because I do get some of these Hall of Famers that, to be honest with you, are not like the most exciting cards to me that they're Hall of Famers. But because Leaf is so cool, they still resonate with me, right? And so I really, really love the different versions. And another thing about Leaf that's super cool that we didn't talk about is that the different color patterns of Leaf are sometimes regarded as being even a cooler card than the original. Okay, where another version of a card, if it has a print defect, it is worth a lot less, right? Mm-hmm. But for Leaf, it is so cool that you can, and as we're talking, trying to find different versions of this. Here's a great version of this. Lou Boudreau, okay, everyone's favorite Hall of Famer, okay? This is like the centered version. This is the centered version. That's like a nice version of the card. Sorry for the glare. Okay. And then there is like a version of him being like a ghost that has brighter colors. Sorry that like with my camera it looks crappy. But just to let you know, it's a higher grade even than the one that's like perfectly centered. That's a beautiful card. That's a ghost version of it. That's a 3. And then there's another version of it that has like the back of the Leaf card that's bleeding into it. And look at that. That is what is that? That's a 4. Okay. The worst version is the best grade, okay, of this card. And I think that has like a lot of fun beauty to it, to look at those cards all next to each other, seeing that the one that actually looks the best is the cheapest version of those other 2 cards that are a complete mess. And one thing that I like to talk to people about, and by the way, the guy who wrote the Leaf book, Brian Capel, he's totally like responsive and great. I have reached out to him on Instagram to ask him some Leaf questions. He responds right away. He loves it. Like Leaf is his life, and he's really great to speak to. And I was talking to him because my goal for Leaf is to try to find perfectly centered cards. And we were kind of like laughing about it, how hard it is, where it's harder to find a centered Leaf card than a perfectly registered Leaf card. And it's kind of like the way that I think of it is like literally blindfolding yourself and then throwing 2,000 darts at a dartboard, and a couple of them might hit that center. Those are the centered versions, because it was complete luck that any of those cards became centered, right? The person that had control over quality was sleeping on the job for that set. And that's what makes that set so cool and fun and gangsterish. And by the way, you don't have to spend a crazy amount of money to buy a lot of these Leaf cards, because you can find the different versions in low grades that are so cool. And I know Brian Capel ends up collecting like that, where he tries to find different versions of even common cards that you can probably buy for $10 or $15 that are just like one of ones of, not they're four of fours technically, because they were on one sheet, but like crazy color versions of the cards that are fun to dive deep into with that set also.
Yeah, and you're talking about how tough it is to find centered. Now try to find centered and properly registered with a nice print job. I mean, that's the cat's meow, as they say right there. If you can find it, it's really tough. And you are more into centering than registration. Like do you turn a blind? Like if you find a perfectly centered card, are you willing to take any type of registration?
It depends on the card, right? But centering does mean the most to me, and then registration is second. But again, I am constantly trying to improve my collection, right? So like I need it to be centered first, and then I will try to improve on registration second many times. And because if I buy a card that's perfectly registered, that's off center, it just bugs the hell out of me. Okay. I'm a crazy person.
How far, how much of a gap is there between centering and registration for you?
It's a pretty big gap.
That's what I thought just from talking to you.
And you know what? It's interesting because Jeremy and I are both on this Matty C eye appeal thing. I was joking to Jeremy about this, and it's supposed to come out like a year ago, but like it's coming out any day now. And it's a very cool site that a lot of people are going to like. And you have to grade people's cards based on eye appeal. There is nobody's grade that is as different as mine as Jeremy. Okay. Because for him, and by the way, this is what I love about Jeremy, is that he's different than me about this. I love watching him go through a Fanatics auction and pick apart the Wilt Chamberlain underarm registration, okay, which bugs the hell out of him. And to me, I don't care, okay?
My personal copy has a bit of that anyway, so.
Oh, I'm surprised you're able to sleep at night, Jeremy. But I mean, for me, to find a perfectly centered one of those cards is a needle in a haystack. And I think you can find registered versions of it. And finding that perfectly centered one is just so difficult that, listen, it's not necessary to find that card. I don't need to have that card that's centered, but it's the game that I play, right? Yeah. There's different ways to collect. And I do love some cards that are not perfectly centered, but I love my centered ones a little bit better.
Sure.
As embarrassing as that is to say, shows that I'm mental.
But you have a preference, and you're entitled to collect what you like. We all are. So I see no issues with that. I'm going to go through some comments, guys, and then we'll come back to Joe and Josh for their thoughts on things. Chris here says there is definitely recency bias in the hobby. However, I've seen some younger people collecting vintage, and yes, I have too, Chris. And, I think even like the way that David presented his theory, there's always going to be exceptions to these things. So, but I'm with Chris. I see it too. Jay Hawker says, when two people with differing hobby opinions cannot agree to disagree and move on, they should be forced to stare at the 1991 Fleer baseball and football sets for 24 straight hours. I think we'll see a much friendlier hobby if those are the repercussions. Good comment. Mike Petty says, that's why I always say, collect what you don't like. By the time you like it, you can't afford it. That's great. That's good stuff. Midlife Cards Greg actually speaks Joe, because he now knows that Vista is the same thing as a View. Although driving through California, there's a whole bunch of Vista points everywhere that you can pull over and take in the nice views. Let's Go Jordan says, third graders taking public bus. Canada must be safe. Dude, I was in third grade in like 1985, I think it was. So, you go back 40 years. You go back 20 years from then, people weren't locking their houses at night. It was a different world. Absolutely. Fresh Prince says, I have a feeling there's going to be a booth at the National selling 49 Leaf t-shirts. Oh, of course. 00 Cards guy says, really hoping for some vintage at the show tomorrow. He's talking about a show here locally in Calgary. I think you're going to be disappointed. There will be some, but I think there's going to be a lot of TCG there. Hobby Champ says, my hobby journey began in 1989 today. I just bought one of the first sets that I ever owned, the 1989 Topps Ames box set. I don't know what that is. $10 peak nostalgia for me, priceless. Josh, you must know what the Topps Ames set was. What was that?
It sounds familiar. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay. Sammy Hill says the
I
49
hope Ames is
Leaf.
cat food. That's what I hope it is.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if
Sammy
it is
Hill.
or not, but that's the only Ames I know.
Sammy Hill says the 49 Leaf Boudreaux, one of my all-time favorite cards, the player manager for my team's last title, 77 years and counting. Yankees fan says grading vintage at PSA is a crapshoot. And Midlife Greg says second time referring to Leaf as gangster. I'm stealing that. And I just have to point out that when David used that term with me when we were chatting a few days ago, I actually have a note. My note here says the set is gangster. And before I actually changed the thumbnail from this episode to something was like he collects gangsters. And I was going to put 3 of his Leaf cards because he sent me some Leaf cards. I was going to put the Leaf cards on there and like some gangster motif to it. But then I abandoned that. So Greg, you're onto it too, buddy. But yeah, almost modeled this whole episode after him calling them gangster because I loved when I heard him say it. Go ahead, David.
What the most gangster thing about the Leaf set, which I love the most, is that there's 98 cards in the Leaf set, and it's numbered to 100, and I think it's like numbered to 198. And they did that to trick children. I mean, how crazy is that?
How gangster is that?
That is so gangster to try to get kids to complete a set that was impossible. Yes, there were short prints, and also there was no such cards that were there to make kids buy more and more and more. So that's the most gangster part about this set, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Josh. What do you got?
Yeah, they skip numbered the first printing, so you couldn't get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the short prints came out later on after the first printing came out. So yeah, it was a total scam. Just like 33 Gotti didn't include a Lajoie. So
right,
nothing new under the sun.
Nope, been doing that for a while. So I'm just looking at the auction from tonight. Some of these huge cards are sold or are selling, and I believe many of these have ended. Here's the Michael Jordan 97 Ultra Masterpiece 1 of 1. I believe it's sold for $2.104 million.
It's not bad.
I see no indication that the auction is still running on here.
Congratulations, Jeremy.
Thank you. It's the biggest card I've ever not bought. Appreciate that. The Honus Wagner looks like it's, let me hit refresh here. So looks like this is sold for, wow, $3.6 million on the Joe Garagiola Honus Hans Wagner 1909 Sweet Capital card here in PSA or SGC Authentic. 3.6. That's a pretty healthy number right there. Go through a few more. I'll just kind of flip through some of the cards that we were watching. This uniform is still going now at 275. Reserve still not met, so might not sell. 317 on that babe. Speaking of Jackie, there's one for 95 grand, but still it looks like these are still going, some of these. So, but let's go with the other Michael Jordan 101 right over here. Seems to have, I think, stalled out at 536.8.
There's 2 of them. That's the problem. There's 2 of those.
No, look at that. 625, guys. 625, and I believe the auction is over. 625 grand on that one and 2.1 million on this one. They had estimated 2 million at Heritage. It was sitting at a lot lower than that to start the day today. Josh, what was it at, like 700, 600 to start the day?
650 at noon today.
650. So it got Scaramucci to 3x up to 2.1.
You go, what?
That's what people are saying now, Josh. When the card triples in the last day, they call it getting Scaramucci'd. I don't know
why.
Because that's what happened to
the guy Scaramucci.
Well, his son who bought the Pikachu Illustrator for $16 million. It was at like 5 going into the day. He Scaramucci'd it up to 16. So that's what people are saying now.
Are you being serious?
No, I'm the only one saying that. I started saying that today. It just
No.
came to me, so I'm the only one.
Someone paid $16 million for a Pokemon card?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Well, welcome to February, Josh. No, hobby, Josh.
I don't pay attention to any of that stuff.
David's getting. This is one of the beautiful things about Josh. He's so innocent about these things. He learns on the go of what's going on. Yeah.
I watch zero content and I read zero hobby news. I come in blind, fresh.
Oh,
Josh, you're mostly into basketball cards, right?
Baseball, basketball, hockey. I have zero focus. If I like it, I buy it. But
I have a basketball question, even though I thought you were going to say yes, you were into basketball. But
yes,
I have a question about the Jordan, the 86 Fleer Jordan card for all of you. Okay. That card to me is an absolute crazy junk wax card that has 48,000 copies that are pops. Okay. 48,000 of them. Okay. To put that in perspective, Jeremy, how many of your Joe Jacksons are there?
Like 75 or something global. Yeah.
Maybe 2,800 Jackies, maybe 2,800 Mantle 52s, maybe 9,000 Babe Ruths, 48,000 Michael Jordan cards. And by the way, there are on average about 2,000 more being graded every single year. Okay. How can the price, and I understand it's supply and demand, and I know that's the easy answer, right? That there's a lot of demand for that card because he is the GOAT. But it is a junk wax card, and I still cannot believe the prices of that card. When I go to any show and I see a full table of that card, I cannot believe that the demand will continue forever. Am I crazy to think that?
No, it's not crazy. I think it will still continue. The demand will continue for that card just because it's Michael Jordan. So
the thing I think about David is you said supply and demand is the easy answer, but it might also be just the answer, the logical answer. The reason I say that is because all the cards that you just listed off, I mean, well, some of them are great cards, but I just think it really comes down to Michael Jordan. He's not only the GOAT of basketball, I think he's the GOAT of all sports and the hobby. Like he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT athlete today. I mean, someone might have said Jim Thorpe 50 years ago, and someone might have said Bo Jackson in the 90s, in the 80s, 90s. But I think you look back now, Michael Jordan is the GOAT of the hobby and of sport. So, and that's, of course, I'm not expressing that as my opinion. I'm expressing that as what I'm witnessing in my perception, different than opinion. But my opinion doesn't necessarily counter that either. So what I was trying to get at, and I kind of caught up on myself there, David, was you go to the Asian population who collects basketball more than baseball. And Shohei might turn that around over time, but for now, they love their basketball and they love Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Those two, it's those two guys, right? A bit of LeBron too, I'm sure. So I think that can the market consume what's out there? And I think so far it can. But I'm with you, David. It's absolutely mind-boggling how much that card sells for, especially when you consider back in the day, people couldn't give them away. $10 a box, you can go open your 48 pack sort of thing. So I don't know, man.
Any of us have that card?
Too. 2,000 more being graded every year. That's a big number. And your numbers that you quoted on other cards, like my research from my Joe Jackson purchase is still right here. Back in a year ago, Mickey Mantle was 2,931 copies, 52 tops total. The Joe Jackson Cracker Jack 76 total. Honus Wagner T206 54 total. These numbers are not guaranteed because some pop reports are impossible to navigate, but yeah. So sorry, what were you trying to jump in with there, David?
But all of us love vintage goats, right? It's not the only thing that we could collect, but we all love that. Do any of us have that card? Joe, do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay. And what is your? I would love then to hear like what's your perspective on that.
So to me, it brings up a lot. I totally agree. Like you look at the massive amount of those issued, and then Jay Lee brings up the point of like consumption. I think that's very interesting. What I would also include is that it is an iconic image, right? If it was a more boring card, that consumption, obviously it's Jordan, and that's going to drive a lot as well. But I think that the level of consumption is amplified by the fact that it is just an extremely beautiful, iconic image of Jordan, flying through, and kind of the re-ushering of an important set, Fleer coming back into basketball. So there's a confluence of circumstances that I think pour a little gasoline on the otherwise like massive pop. I have a 4.5 that has a very slight surface wrinkle. And it's funny you mentioned it, because I've been thinking like, do I really want to hold that card long term? I mean, you see it all the time. Is it important? I found my way into this card. Just, it's got like 9 centering, 8 edges, maybe 8 corners, and then like a 4 or a 3.5 surface, because it has the slightest little, baby breath wrinkle that you can't even really see unless you turn the card right. So I like that. For me, it feels like good value for the price point for me. But I didn't ever feel like I needed to own that card. I more just stepped into one that sort of worked for my budget and my evaluation of its worth to me.
David, I don't own that card anymore, but I did. I bought a PSA 9 slabbed copy at the 2008 National in Chicago for $1,000 and sold that for 16, 17 grand. So I don't own it anymore. And I do not have any intentions to replace it. I'm not interested in owning the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan anymore. I have a painting of it right there. That's good enough for me now. And so I'm good with that for me. Couple comments here, guys. Fresh Prince says, it's Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes ever that most of us got to watch live or on TV, and every old and new collector wants one. Although I just said I don't want one anymore, but I have owned it. So I'll include myself in Fresh Prince's comment there. Anyway,
I kind of want one too, right? Like I feel like I'm sad that I don't, because as crazy as it is, Jeremy's book, right? Like the pops on that card really makes me doubt buying a card like that, as crazy as it sounds. And I know that that's dumb to think, but it's I'm a hybrid, right? I kind of think of what's 10 years from now, what people are going to be thinking. And man, I mean, Jordan is still alive. And I really hope that there's nothing that ruins his legacy, right? Which we've seen happen to other sports stars. And I'm hoping, of course, I'm being devil's advocate, right? Of course, Jordan's the best. And I would love to have his card, okay, obviously. But it's just something to think about, because I grew up during junk wax, right? And, I fell in love with the San Antonio Spurs because I loved that David Robinson jersey card, which is now worth like 15 cents because there was 1 million of them. And even though he's a top 50 basketball player of all time and probably one of the most boring, so I get it, he's no Jordan, but at the same time, it's worthless, okay? And how so many of my beautiful childhood cards of some of these players that were the greatest of all time, like Roger Clemens, like Barry Bonds, okay, were literally the best, one of the best pitchers of all time and one of the best baseball players of all time, are now close to worthless kind of cards. And I get it. Jordan is the GOAT, but there's also a hell of a lot of those cards. That's all I'm trying to say.
Only thing that stumped me in what you said there was when you called out Clemens and Bonds. They have other kind of hair on their reputation sort of thing, but I definitely hear what you're saying on that. Dan Brown made a good comment. He said 48,000 includes resubmissions though. And there's thousands of that 48,000. How many of those are phantom entries in the population? Like probably over 8,000 of them, I'm going to guess. It's a huge number for that card. Yankees fan says to Greg, unless it's their pronoun, which I wish I didn't catch the beginning of that, but I think that's funny. Hobby Champ says, Michael Jordan sits atop the hobby hierarchy. Without question, he may not have the highest selling cards of all time, but with ease, he has the highest amount of market share. Yeah, but I will say he is on the highest publicly auctioned card ever, sports card ever sold. He is on that card. He shares with Kobe, but he is on that one, Hobby Champs. But I think, if we're looking at quantity, you're definitely right. He doesn't.
He's almost the greatest, right behind Pikachu. He's one of the greatest.
Right, one of the greatest, just behind Pikachu. And I like Double O's card guy's comment here. He says, a lot of times just owning a card once is enough. And this is something that I wouldn't have been able to see until it became my reality. I've gone through 2 significant purges of my collection in the last 4 years. And many of the cards that I've gotten rid of, that I've moved out of, I haven't replaced, and I have no real sights on replacing them. A lot of them are, important Hall of Fame rookie cards, like a Joe Montana, like a Jerry Rice, like a Jim Brown. And now I'm not really, I don't need to go own them again, but I find myself being very interested in their 2nd, 3rd, 4th year cards as something different, to own something different. So I personally really, this comment from Double O Card Guy resonates with me. I've actually lived that myself recently. Where do you guys fall on that? Joe, you've gone in and out of cards a lot lately. Is owning it once enough for you, or do you want to own cards again?
It sort of depends. I did get a rookie Gretzky O-Pee-Chee. I think I got it in a 3, and then I sold it. And I think I want one back because I never quite liked the one that I had. So in that case, I would want to get it back. I think I'd like to own another one. But I have a feeling if I ever sell this 86 Fleer Jordan, I may not ever get it back. So it probably just depends on what the card was I owned and whether I felt like that satisfaction with it, maybe, or that I just want to continue to have a better version, maybe.
I hear you. I'm in that right now. Michael Rader said here, some cards are just iconic and will always be desired. Jordan is in that category. That's actually a really astute point here, David, too, to your original prompt for this discussion, because it's a top 3 most iconic card of all time. For sure a top 5, but Honus, Mickey, and the Jordan, I think those are the top 3 most iconic cards in the hobby, consensus-wise. So it's going to be tough for that card to fall out of favor. BW here says, someone stole my Reggie rookie. I don't think I'm going to try to replace it. I love that card. I still have mine. So but if mine got stolen or I had to sell it, I don't know. Probably I might not replace it anymore, And the thing also for me right now is just where I'm at in life. I'm well into my 50s now, and I've owned several cards for decades. That's a long time to own a card for. Some of these iconic cards I've held for 30 years and even longer, 35, 40 on some of them. And, I'm okay not owning them for my whole life and expanding my scope of ownership and cards that I get to own and enjoy. I'm just getting a lot of joy from non-rookies right now, guy. I know I say it a lot, but I just really am. I don't know why, but it's just the way. Anyway. Oh, Jeremy Filippelli loves his Orlando Cepeda rookie card. Yeah, another one I used to have. I don't anymore. So nice call out there from Filippelli. Well, let's wrap this up, guys. We're well into overtime here. David's been on for about an hour 15 longer than he was intending. We were intending, or that we scheduled you for. But I'm glad he could stay, David. But let's go to Joe and Josh. Just any kind of final comments on anything. Start with you, Joshua.
I'm good. I thought all my cards were ending tonight in Heritage, but it's tomorrow. So I have 22 hours.
That you're buying or selling?
Buying.
Well, good luck. Anything you want to mention, or you want to keep those? No,
wait till it's over.
All right, buddy. Joe, final comments on the night?
Well, I just really enjoyed David's storytelling, and there was some bittersweetness to it, but I also believe that kind of everything happens for a reason. I think you're going to find yourself in a moment down the road where all will be redeemed, and the tuition that we pay in this hobby sometimes doesn't always feel good, but in the big picture, like I'm so happy that we have our collecting journey, and I've made plenty of moves where I was just like, oh, if I could have replayed this again. And I think all of us listening tonight, empathized with your circumstances, and we're rooting for you to get the Jackie that you deserve to have in your collection.
Thank you.
I am on board with that, Joe. David, let your first time on the show, not your last. What are your final thoughts? And thank you for joining. It's been great having you. Love the story. Anyway, final comments to you. Then I'm going to run through the final comments in the chat, and then we're going to make this thing go over.
All right. So thank you all for saying that. And by the way, I can get over this. All right. Like I appreciate all of your thoughts and well wishes about it. But you know what? There's more to life than baseball cards, even though I don't like to say that. Okay. Like there really is. And it's now been a few weeks and I have mended. So I'm okay. But the main thing though, is that this has been such an amazing time for me to be on this show. I love this show. Okay. I consume a hell of a lot of hobby content, and this show is just exactly what I look for. Right. It's fun topics. Jeremy runs a hell of a show. I love you, Josh. I love you, Joe. I think you guys are great parts of this show and make it like fun and wacky and silly and have a good time and educational. And I'm just really honored to be part of it. So just thank you.
Appreciate those very nice comments, David. Thank you so much. And it's been great having you. Midlife Greg, great show. Thank you, Midlife Greg. I will be on with Greg on his live stream tomorrow night. Greg, remind me, I forget if it's on Midlife or For Collectors, but I will be on it wherever that is. And then I'll be on doing the Fanatics Weekly show here on Sports Cards Live tomorrow night. BW says, BW, I just want to say, I'm sorry to hear this. I don't think I expressed, like, that sucks, man. Yeah, that's tough. Sorry to hear. Fresh Prince, appreciate you and appreciate the nice comment. 00 Card Guy, I'll see you at the show locally tomorrow. Greg says David Chase is a keeper. Yes, he is. Filippelli, thank you so much for the nice comment. Michael Rader says, great show. Thank you all. Thank you, Michael Rader. Yankees fan, this show was a ride. Thanks all. This one went by really fast for me tonight. Chrissy says, David, you will find the Jackie. Thank you for being a passionate collector. Petty says, great show. Really enjoyed our newest guest. Well done, David and team. Thank you, Petty. Chris C, thank you to everyone. Awesome show, guys. Thank you, Chris C. Petty says that David is centered. That's very nice. I don't know if I agree with that, but okay, we'll go with it. I'm just kidding. We'll go with it. Kinger, may I state when discussing base cards, vast majority of cards post-Golden Era, the momentary card value is grade pertinent. Great show, gentlemen. Have a great week. Thank you for that comment. Kinger, much appreciated. Ron Fig, good. Thank you for being here. BW, Laura, thank you so much. David, welcome to Sports Cards Live. Jeremy, what a roller coaster of an evening. Thanks, Laura. I look forward to meeting you. I'll see you here before then, but I look forward to meeting you at Burbank, where I'm doing a book signing, book launch at Burbank Sports Cards on March the 10th from noon to 3 Pacific. Everybody, if you're in the area, please come by. Thank you. I will be on For Collectors tomorrow night at 6 o'clock Pacific. 6 Pacific, is it, Greg? You better remind me. I got to know when to be there. I think it's 6 Pacific. Thank you, Jeremy from California, Hobby Champ, Sammy Hill. David earned himself an invite back on the show with those closing compliments. Oh, he earned it before, but yes, sir. Dang, JL is famous. Oh, thank you. Let's go, Jordan. And David Cooey, 303 is in the books. Another banger. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. 6 o'clock Pacific, I'll be on For Collectors with Greg and his usual cast of characters. I'm looking forward to it, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you're not yet on the Hobby Spectrum, go to hobbyspectrum.com, request your early access code. That early access code thing will be done mid-March. Appreciate it. Mike Petty says, I'm like Johnny Carson, inviting the guests back, and then they become big stars. There we go. Let's do it. Hey, look at Joe Poirot. I mean, He's the life of the party now. He's the center of attention. It's if we can make that happen, we're going to make that happen. We love it. All right, guys. It is February the 28th, 2026. And this episode of Sports Cards Live, we're starting with you, David Chase, is now
Over.
And with that, good night, everybody. You three stay right there.
Thanks for tuning in and being a part of the Sports Cards Live community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and most of all, keep collecting. More great content to come. Sports Cards is a lifestyle.